services. You deliver so many services to so many people right here in the Mid-City area. Tell me about that, please.
Absolutely. Well, St. Barnabas has been around for quite a long time. We're a nonprofit, non-sectarian, nonpartisan service provider. We were founded back in 1908. As I like to fondly say, for particularly those who are baseball fans, that was the last year the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, and we all know how long that was. And so we've been around for about 101 years, and our mission is to provide and promote a continuum of services that empower a diverse community of older adults so that they can live well, they can feel well, and they can age well. And quite frankly, you know, it's really our major objective is that folks can age in place in their preferred setting, which is the community.
Of course. But you provide a hub of a wide variety of services. I mean, in a little while we'll be looking at some of those services, but it's everything from medical help, transportation help, and more.
Absolutely. Our core services that we offer are social case management. We also have nutrition, which offers congregate meal sites. We have a total of 6 sites. In addition, we do home-delivered meals. We also offer transportation, and we have daycare services. We have an adult day health care facility, which is the S. Mark Taper Foundation Adult Day Health Care Center. And we're very proud that we just been awarded a contract by the city to provide adult day program as well. So we're really excited about that in October. Let me also add that in addition to these core services, we also have I would say, a nationally renowned cyber cafe, which is a location where seniors can come in, grab a cup of coffee, a pastry, and then get comfortable and either socialize with their peers, or they can sit at a computer where they can have access to online services. We also have 2 medical clinics on site that we actually lease out to physicians so that we can have medical services on site. And we also provide English as a second language and payee rep. So there's a slew of other programs that we have that support the core services that we offer at St. Barnabas.
Now, in this current environment and economics, it comes down to dollars and cents. Are you feeling pressed on all sides? Is it a difficult environment?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, quite frankly, we're being asked to do more with less. Sure. And, of course, it's no surprise, just given the demographic shift and the baby boom, baby boomer boom. And so, honestly, it's really unfortunate that we are facing and going through these cuts at this time, particularly in this time of recession, because those who most need it among our older adults, at-risk individuals are really now facing not only cuts in their programs, but full elimination, which puts them at greater risk, particularly in this. And so, can lead to homelessness, higher degrees of health issues.
Right.
Even
looking in the long run, even greater expense than this is where that ounce of prevention works every time.
Absolutely.
Well, the nursing home institutionalization, when you think about the proposal to eliminate adult day health care centers that we were faced with, that would have resulted in 37,000 beneficiaries, many of them ending up in nursing homes.
Right.
And that's not where people want to be. They want to reside in the community or at home in an independent setting. And
study after study shows that the longer you can keep someone in their home, the less expense to the state. Now, Laura, at the Department of Aging, are you busily identifying best practices, those programs that are really working and turning out a worthy outcome?
We've been doing that for several years. We are very much at the forefront, I think, as a Department of Aging in the nation, looking at what is called evidence-based practice. That means that it's research-demonstrated interventions that actually have the outcomes that you expect on that older adult population. Right. And we actually were one of the first departments of aging in the country awarded federal dollars to test the implementation of evidence-based programs locally. And we have now developed, I think, a very good partnership of community-based providers who have engaged with us in implementing those programs in their local multi-purpose senior centers and other locations. So we are very proud of the work that we've been doing, because at the end of the day, I think one of the things that those of us who work on behalf of older people have to demonstrate to funders, policymakers, is that what we do matters in the lives of older people, and that we can demonstrate that through metrics, through evaluation components that we've done of our programs, that they are successful, that our money is well spent
Right.
to get the outcomes that we want to achieve. And so I think that that's one of the things that's also important for those of us working with the older adult population, is that we do have that data that we can present. And it's really an unprecedented time in our history. As Dr. Torres said, the word of elimination of entire programs was one that we've been coping with for the last 12 months.
Right.
It was not to curtail our programs, it's for them to disappear.
Outright disappear. Right.
And that's been incredibly difficult, because I had not experienced that, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, to experience that level of loss of funding in our basic services, providing support for seniors in our community. So these are very difficult times, but we are also, I think, probably better prepared than we've ever been to actually demonstrate the effectiveness of our services.
Well, to be open to new ideas and the potential for cost saving and efficiency by integrating so many of these services. Certainly we can lower the overhead, if you will, and get back down to real hands-on delivery of services.
Can I mention about one of the evidence best practice programs that we have at Altamed, who is a nonprofit founded in 1969, and we provide primary medical care and a whole gamut of from pediatric to geriatric care, including adult day health care programs. And one of the programs that's nationally known, and there's 5 in the state of California, is called a Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, PACE. Right. And that program is one of the most comprehensive models that integrates the primary care, medical care model, brings in the adult day health care services, the in-home service piece. Someone can go into the program and they get all of their services coordinated by a multidisciplinary team, and they have the physician there who's part of the team with nurses, dietitians, physical therapists, social workers. All of those professionals are speaking daily, meeting daily about the participant in terms of what they need, with the goal of keeping them at home. And it's been studied. Research shows it's very cost effective.
Exactly, and that's a key point. Now, one of the major components, the unsung heroes in all of this, are our caregivers, family members, sometimes quite young, who have put their lives on hold to provide care for an aging loved one. Rigo, do you have support services for caregivers as well?
Absolutely, we provide services. I mean, we recognize that, to be a caregiver, you go through tremendous stress, both emotionally, financially, and there are many hardships that go with that. So we are there to provide support groups at our Adult Day Health Care Center, as well as at our main site. And we help, we provide techniques for our caregivers to be able to cope with their situation.
Right.
And in addition to coping skills, it's also important, I want to sort of piggyback on our need to sort of unify our voice. I think just because we are service providers doesn't mean that we can't speak up as well.
Yes.
And I think it's really critical that in the process of working with caregivers that we also engage them in the process. As decisions are being made by our state and our local officials, they need to be heard. And we as service providers, I think, have a duty to play that role as well, and to bring the groups and caregivers together to come up with a united message and moving us forward so that we can continue to look for resources that enable us to carry out evidence-based kinds of projects in the community.
Couldn't agree with you more. It's time for us to take a short break, and when we return, we will continue the discussion of the future of senior services. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Just a minute.
It's that time of year again to clear all that annoying dry brush from around your house. In the event of a fire, dry brush is extremely combustible and can explode. By clearing brush 200 feet from your home, you create a barrier, lessening the likelihood of spreading a fire. I'll still be here when you get back! Get the message. Be prepared.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. I'm Paul Peterson, and today we are discussing the future of senior services and how we can continue to provide for an ever-growing number of seniors with decreasing resources from our governments. Our guests include our good friend Laura Trejo, General Manager of the Los Angeles Department of Aging, Dr. Marie Torres, Senior Vice President of Government Relations at the Ultimate Health Services, and Rigo Saborio, Executive Director of St. Barnabas' Senior Services. Laura, back to you. Rigo brought this up before the break. How do we marshal those very people that we serve so they can be a more effective political voice?
I think that we have various tools that we can be using. Disseminating information is critical. One of the things that we did recently when the governor released his proposed budget, we actually informed seniors across the entire region.
And they showed up, didn't they?
And they actually more than showed up. We had over 27 senior centers in Los Angeles County holding demonstrations outside of their centers where over 3,500 seniors participated in what we were calling a stand-in in front of the centers. We were really pleasantly surprised at the level of willingness of older adults to be engaged in protecting the services that they were utilizing and that they need or that they anticipate needing in the future.
Right.
Their stories were very, very eloquent and I think very much to the point that this is what keeps them at home and keeps them independent.
Right.
So we've begun to really look at older adults themselves. We need their voices.
Yeah.
We need their families. And we saw the tremendous outpouring of support. And so that gives us, I think, the impetus to continue to develop those opportunities for the community to be involved themselves. And so
Right.
we're very proud of sort of the direction we're heading and trying to educate the public about the impact that these cuts will have on their lives.
Right, exactly. And nobody gets to sit this one out.
No.
There is no place in our society, top to bottom, no matter where you live,
Correct.
where you're going to escape the consequences of these kind of budgetary cuts on people we care about.
Yes.
Who work their whole lives with the expectation, and I think it's a reasonable expectation, of having someone to care for them.
Correct.
We know this, yes.
Oh, can I just mention, because of course we were we had several of our centers do the stand-ins, but
Right.
we also, one of the techniques that we used with our seniors at our various adult day health care and care management programs is that we mobilized them we would provide transportation and we would just show up to the office of the elected official, no appointments.
Okay.
No, they loved it. They loved it. We would go in there full force, 8 to 10 at a time maybe,
Right.
and we would tell our stories. The clients would share their stories. It got very emotional at times for the clients to share their stories because many of them are very sick and frail and have disabilities, and so when the staff would be meeting or the elected official, I mean, they were just overwhelmed to see that people would just be showing up. Every hour, every couple of hours, we had another group go in. And I think that was very effective.
It's very effective, and it is also true that many of our seniors kind of cut their adult teeth on political action. And this is not something we get to give away. But we're going to take another little break here because, Rigo, you brought along some tape for us to see some of the services so we all know what we're talking about. And Aging in LA recently took a tour of the St. Barnabas Senior Services. And Rigo, please be our tour guide as we look inside your community.
Absolutely. This is our reception area of our building that we moved into in 1987. These are photographs of our staff who are multilingual and multicultural, reflecting the community that we serve. We speak over 8 languages,
Wow.
the major languages being Korean, Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and very dedicated staff. This is our atrium area. We like to sort of give a home feel to our center. So as people walk in, as you can see, there's magazines and areas and sofas where folks can lounge around, and so that it's a home away from home. And also there's opportunities for our home theater. We show movies every 3 days or 3 times a week. In addition, this is the cyber cafe that I was mentioning to you. As you can see, there are tables there set up so people can engage. This is one of our nutrition sites at our main building. As I mentioned, there we have 6 nutrition sites, congregate meal sites, and here's one of them at our main building. We serve about 80 meals a day at that location, about over 350 meals per day on all sites combined. Very nutritious meal. Of course, there are standards that we have to meet in terms of the daily requirements and so on and so forth. This is where we prep our meals, and you can see we work also with Title V programs, and we hire the Title V volunteers to work with our nutrition program. Here's the upstairs of our building, and we use this particular area, open space, to provide Tai Chi classes, exercise classes, fall prevention class. And these offices that you're looking at here are sort of a reflection, obviously, of the staff of the various cultural backgrounds, but they're also there to provide case management, social services. Here's the transportation. And here's one of our physicians that leases one of our space that provides medical attention to our clients once a week. And this is a shot here of our S. Mark Taper Foundation Adult Day Healthcare Center. We're very proud of this center. This building was completed in 2003. Again, we have a very diverse service staff. Speaking many languages on site, again reflective of the population that we serve. And here, as you can see, there's quite a bit of activities. There's occupational therapy, physical therapy. We also have a gardening area in the back as part of the occupational therapy. And here's one of our social workers working with one of our clients. And here's a quiet room area as well. Again, the whole idea here is to try to set it up so that it's a home away from home, that home feeling, so that the folks there who primarily have cognitive impairment that we serve in the site, feel that they are at home.
Right. Wow, it's really amazing. What's the mix of staff, of paid staff, volunteer staff?
Well, we have about 43 paid staff, and we also then have about an additional 20 volunteers that we have through Title V.
And can I assume that there are many volunteer opportunities there?
Oh, there absolutely are volunteer opportunities, and in fact, I'm really, again, this is a difficult time to look for additional resources, but we got to get creative, because I'm really looking for someone that I can hire on as full-time to be able to be a volunteer manager.
Right.
Because there is so many seniors out there who really want to give back to the community, and there are so many needs that we have, particularly in these times where you have less to do more, and I think it's a great time to bring volunteers from the community to come in and help and address the needs of the community you serve.
Laura, for many years I have said these intergenerational programs are the ones I favor. The idea that youngsters, even very young youngsters, have a role to play in helping to care for our senior population, besides the love and wisdom that they're able to acquire. They can do so many things to help an elderly relative or even in a volunteer setting.
Absolutely, and many of our centers actually have placement for high school students doing social service hours.
Great, and those hours count, right?
Absolutely.
See? Yes.
Many of them are doing that work at daycares. Others are entire classes. For example, we've been working with elementary schools to write letters for isolated seniors to receive when during the holidays they write letters or make cards, and we deliver them with a meal during the Christmas holiday. We utilize volunteers, entire families who dedicate a part of their Thanksgiving holiday to help us do a home-delivered meal for that day. We're very proud. That's an entirely funded and operated by volunteers.
That's fantastic.
We also have an incredible volunteer program which is really gaining statewide recognition, where we have a high school that works with a senior center, but primarily these are developmentally disabled young adults who help in the nutrition program at our multipurpose center, and so they're gaining work skills, but the other part they're gaining also tremendous socialization skills. The seniors loved having these young people, really trying to be of help to them, and it just is an incredible sight to see.
Well, one of the things, and I'm sure Marie, you'll agree with me, is to end this isolation. These are not pockets of special needs people. These are our moms and our dads and our aunts and our uncles, and we need to include them.
Well, we all grew up with our grandparents
Yes.
around, and so it's very, very comfortable, it's natural, and that's what we need. But I wanted to make a comment on the volunteer aspect of involving youth in some of
Quickly,
the settings.
please.
Yes,
We're up against it.
workforce development, future physicians, nurses,
Right.
social workers, rehab therapists, that's what we need.
I got you. Well, I'm sorry that our time is up for today's edition of Aging in LA. Important conversations. Thank you so much to our guest, Laura Trejo, General Manager of the Los Angeles Department of Aging, Dr. Marie Torres, Senior Vice President of Government Relations at Ultimate Health Services, Enrico Saborio, Executive Director of St. Barnabas' Senior Services. And now, it's time for today's Senior Stat Shots. The U.S. Census Bureau has released data that highlight the staggering boom in the senior citizen population in the nation and the world. In the U.S., the senior citizen population appears to be headed to a 40% increase in the next 5 years due to the flooding of the senior ranks by baby boomers. The world's 65 and older population is projected to triple by mid-century, from 516 million folks in 2009 to 1.5 billion in 2050. In contrast, the world population under 15 is expected to increase by only 6% during the same period, from 1.83 billion to 1.93 billion. At this time, less than 8% of the world's population is 65 and older. But by 2030, the world's population of seniors is expected to reach 12%, and by 2050, that share is expected to grow to 16%. And that's today's Senior Stat Shot. The Los Angeles Department of Aging produces this program with CityView, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed on the many issues that face them in everyday life. And also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens. Now, we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and your ideas for future programs. Please give us a call. The number's right there on your screen, area code 213-252-4088. That's 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you the next time.
An emergency can happen at any time.
Earthquake!
That's why you need to be prepared. Put together an emergency kit with food, water, a first aid kit, a flashlight, radio, and some tools.
I can't believe it's an earthquake!
You're never too old to prepare.
Ah, get out of there!
Get the message? Be prepared.
Get out of the house!
Illegally parked cars? Call 311, the toll-free number for non-emergency services. 311, your one call to City Hall.
Don't worry, Patty. This isn't going to hurt me one bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Shapiro in beautiful Encino, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Open wide.
5 members were at 10. Okay, welcome to the council chambers in the Los Angeles City Hall. This is a meeting of the City of Los Angeles City Council, and today is Wednesday, April the 27th, 2011. Council meets 3 times per week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and all meetings are open to the public. For those who cannot make it to City Hall, meetings are viewed via cable on Channel 35 or can be viewed by visiting our website at www.lacity.org. Audio of our meetings is available by council phone by dialing 213-621-CITY. Now, Madam Clerk, what is before, I'm sorry, not Mr. Clerk, I'm sorry, I should have looked up first. Mr. Clerk, what is our first order of business?
Madam President, would you like to call the roll? Would you like me to call the roll? Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Kokoran, LaBlanche, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zion, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
All right, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Rosendahl moves, Mr. Alarcon seconds.
Can you... commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Reyes moves, Mr. Huizar seconds.
Madam President, would you like to run through the agenda?
Yeah, that would be...
Item 1 is an item notice for public hearing. It's a PCN in Council District 1. Findings and recommendations are required.
Okay, Mr. Reyes.
I'd like to add this language to our action, which is 1, determine that the issuance of a beer and wine license type 42 at Sunset Beer Company located at 1498 Sunset Boulevard, number 3, Los Angeles 926, will serve the public convenience or necessity and will not tend to create a law enforcement problem. 2, grant the application for determination of public convenience or necessity for the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption and off-site consumption at 1498 Sunset Boulevard. Instruct the city clerk to transmit this determination to the State Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, ABC, as the required findings under Business and Professional Code Section 23958.4.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Clerk, are there any cards in this item?
Madam President, there is not.
All right, well, then let's open the roll, close the roll, and then tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
Next item.
Madam President, items 2 through 16 are items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports for items 6 and 10 have been submitted and distributed to council. 6, 10, and 11 have been submitted and distributed to council. Relative to item number 2, the results of the ballot tabulation for the establishment of the Westwood Business Improvement District are as follows. 67.4% were in support and 32.6% were opposed. The proposed establishment may be authorized and the subject ordinance may be adopted.
All right, Mr. Cardenas, did you want to... Okay, Mr. Zine, I think you want...
But I think the staff was...
All right. Why don't we, so can we open the roll on that and vote on that now?
For item number 2?
Yes.
Certainly.
All right. If there are no objections, we'll open the roll on that. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
All right. Now, Mr. Zine, did you raise your hand for number 7? 7, please. Mr. Zine wants 7 called special. Mr. Cardenas, did you want to call anything special?
16 for Hun.
Okay, 16. All right, thank you. All right, and then let's open the roll on the remaining items.
Pardon me, Madam President. Items at this point 3 through 6 are ordinances. Would you like to hold them on the desk until 12 members are present?
Yes. The next order of business.
Very good. We could now vote on the remaining items not called special.
Open the roll on the remaining items. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
Next order of business.
Items 17 through 31 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Members, again, any specials? Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you, Madam President. 25.
Mr. Cardenas has called 25 special. Any other specials, members? All right. 10? 10. Mr.
We already voted on 10. We voted on 10? Yes. Okay, no problem. All right, Mr. Clerk, would you please send 10 forthwith?
Very good.
Yes, Mr. Cardenas.
Parks usually calls that one. He's not here.
Let's
That's
see.
the update on the coalition MOUs.
Madam President, we do have cards on that matter if you'd like to hold it special.
We'll call 17 special then.
In
Great.
terms of other items in this grouping that do have cards, I believe only item 28.
Only 28. All right, you're correct. So open the roll on the remainder of the items, please.
Pardon me. What, 30 and 31? Apparently 30 and 31 as well have cards.
There are no cards for 30 or 31 in here in the box. No cards there. Nope.
Very good. Apparently 17 and 28 are the only items called special for cards then in this section.
Okay. All right, so can we open the roll on the remainder of the items? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay.
Madam President, items 32 through 35 are items noticed for closed session. Would you like to hold them on the desk?
Yes, let's hold those on the desk.
Very good. On the continuation agenda, items 36 and 37 are items for which public hearings have been held.
All right, no cards on those? 37.
We do have a card on 36, however, a public hearing was satisfied in committee.
All right, then let's open the roll on 36.
Actually, Madam President, item 36, our office is requesting that this matter be referred to the Jobs and Business Development Committee for discussion on the bond underwriting issue.
Okay, where's Mr. Alarcon? Does he accept this referral? Mr. Alarcon? That's his committee, correct? All right, well, it's referred, we'll go ahead and refer it back to committee then.
36 is referred back to committee.
Okay? So the action to be taken is to refer this matter back to committee. Mr. Clerk, do we need to vote on that, or simply without objection?
You can send that without objection,
Okay, we'll
Madam
send that
President.
without objection.
That leaves item number 37 before you.
37, okay. There are no, all right, open the roll on 37. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, we have 12 members here now.
Pardon me, Madam President. We do have item 38 on the continuation agenda.
Great.
That is an item for which a public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay.
There has been a request to continue this matter till Friday, April 29.
Okay, then we'll continue this item without objection. Next item.
That brings council back to items called special or public comment. We do have 12 members if you'd like to
Yes,
take up
let's
the
do the
ordinances.
ordinances now. All right, what's first order?
The ordinances that we have for consideration are 3, 4, 5, 17, well, actually 17 was called special for cards. So 3, 4, and 5 at this time.
Why don't I take the cards first? 3, I'll call up the card.
A public hearing was satisfied in committee for items 3, 4, and 5, Madam President.
Let's see, we only have cards from Arnold Sachs on 3 and 4. Mr. Sachs, please come forward.
Madam President, I'm sorry, we should include item 6 in this consideration as well. So 3, 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and 6, okay.
Well, thank you, Madam President. Arnold Sachs, item number 3. This is direct sale. Proposed land exchange of surplus properties between the City of Los Angeles and Brian Weiss. So let's just use an example, City of Los Angeles and AEG. the proposed sale of property there? Or using those criteria, or would you use this criteria for that sale? That is a sale that will go through. And considering the value of this property, it's $3,000, well, you're paying escrow expenses of $3,372. What would the escrow expenses be for a stadium to be built in downtown LA? Figure escrow expenses are what, 1% of the price? Some small percentage? What do you think the stadium would garner for the city's general fund if you sold that property? Because we know it's not being leased, because we said, City Council said, we're not leasing that property, or so it was mentioned. Item number 4, very quickly. This is a municipal code to clarify that business taxes of the City of Los Angeles apply to all businesses, including the reclassified tax category set forth in Section 2141. So I'm wondering, where does that leave the DWP? That's a business? Don't they have to pay taxes? They don't have to pay property taxes? And the funds that they are allocating to the city, like this year's payment, extend into the next fiscal year. So what kind of business tax code allows, would that mean that all businesses are allowed to extend their payments for their property taxes into the next fiscal year? Because you're changing the business code, and you're including DWP, hopefully.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. Members, are there any comments on these two items? If not, Mr. Clerk, would you please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, next item.
Madam President, would you like to reconsider item number 2, to consider the ordinance on its first read? First a vote to reconsider, and then a vote on the ordinances.
All right, let's open the vote. Open the roll to the motion to reconsider item number 2, please. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, matter 2. Item 2 is now before us again. Who would like to speak on this item?
Madam President, there are no requests to speak at this point in time. It's an ordinance that we passed previously with 11
All right,
members.
so we need to revote it.
Correct.
Okay, let's revote on this item. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, thank you very much. Next item.
Madam President, we do have a request to reconsider items 30 and 31. Those are the Denim Day items. We can reconsider them and hold them on the desk.
Okay, motion to reconsider items 30 and 31. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Items 30 and 31 will sit on the desk until our guests arrive. All right, now let's go back and take care of the rest of these ordinances.
It's not on the board.
We ready to do that?
Madam President, yes. That would bring us, let's bring us to items 18 through 23.
Okay, 18 through 23. All right, let's take them one at a time then. Number starting with 18.
Uh, 18 through 23 are ordinances, Madam President. Let's first reconsider and then vote.
Motion to reconsider items 18 through 23 has been offered. Mr. Clerk, would you please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Items 18 through 23 are now back for reconsideration. Members, are there any comments on items 18 through 23? If not, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll on items 18 through 23. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Very good. Thank you. And next order of business.
Madam President, would you like to return to items 32 through 35? Those are the items noticed for a closed session, and Councilmember Parks is now here.
Well, let's see, we have public comment. I think we should do public comment first, and then give our guests some time to arrive. Why don't I call folks up to the microphone 3 at a time, and first person will be William, I believe it's William Scott Garwright. Okay, Ira Scott Garwright Jr. And following Ira will be Freddie Coronel. Following Freddie will be Arnold Sachs. And following Arnold Sachs will be Ramiro Bravo.
I'd like to address the whole City Council as a whole, the voting clerk, the city clerk, and the city attorney. Right now, we'd like to wish this to have been a closed-door hearing because it's a project that brings finances to the city, not only to the city, but to the outlying county. Some people like to invest prior to doing it. But this project would bring forth such things as communication jackets, toys, jet rails, and a new engine, pistonless engine. I think a few of the councilwomen and one councilman has a brief on what this could bring. You cannot, at this present time, invest in it. For future investment, it has to be working properly before it can even attempt to go on the stock exchange anyway. So I like it, the convenience of the city council. They have my P.O. box that they can get in contact with me. I can sit down and explain it to them behind closed doors. Right now, I do not have enough time to do it. But it would bring forth a transportation shelter in order to bring forward to central heating and etc. One of the tow truck drivers sit down and explain to me that need to be paced, but at that time, space separate so you can, if one of the buses fail, they could hook up and pull it out. It will bring forth finances. Some of the people were complaining about it was not enough protection for the climate in Los Angeles. It gets warm and cooling at night, and in the middle of the day it gets kind of hot. So it's about bringing forth financing to help to ease the tax burden, rather than when a new project come out, then there's more finances coming and to help the low income. So I don't have the time to explain it. It has to go before the council. It's a private industry. It's a private corporation that's already listed with the United States District Court, and I'm still with the Appellate Court, North American and with Canadian courts. So that's about it right now. At their convenience, they can send it to the P.O. box. Thank you very much.
Freddie Coronel. Following Mr. Coronel will be Arnold Sachs. Mr. Sachs, if you can make your way up here. And then Ramiro Bravo will be after Mr. Sachs.
Hello, my name is Freddie Coronel, and I'm a member of the LaRouche Political Action Committee. Last week, we brought to your attention H.R. 1489, which was introduced on April 12th. And this is put together by Marcy Kaptur. She's a Democratic congresswoman from Ohio. What the resolution calls for, what this legislation calls for, is to restore Glass-Steagall. Currently, we are on a campaign and a mobilization to gain support for this particular resolution, which is the reason why I'm here today. I'm asking all of you to call your representatives in the House and demand that they co-sponsor H.R. 1489, as should be made very clear based off of the rise of hyperinflation on food prices, gas prices, and of course just the level and the degree to which Wall Street has been able to speculate. This is the very act itself that could stop Wall Street and crush the power of the banking interests. By doing so, we will have written off trillions and trillions of dollars of illegitimate debt in the form of financial derivatives, at which point we can restore credit to this nation and invest towards the kind of infrastructure projects that we need to rebuild the economy. Under Glass-Steagall, we can provide the assistance to California to avoid any further budget cuts, along with the 47 other states that face bankruptcy. What I just handed to you today are two items. One is an emergency resolution that our PAC put together for Glass-Steagall, and the second contains a letter written by Marcy Kaptur herself, a letter written to her colleagues to encourage them to co-sponsor H.R. 1489. I encourage you to take a look at it. There's a website on there as well. We have more information on Glass-Steagall and various other things. I will be sending you some emails with further information, and I hope that we can meet to discuss this particular matter and other relevant matters in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. Let's talk a little bit more about AEG and the stadium. This article from the January 20th. $440,000 again, $440 million still owned on the convention center that was built in 1971. So after paying for 40 years, $440 million. In yesterday's downtown news, this MPG Office Trust is in default on a $470 million loan for two high-rises in downtown L.A. Not even 20 years old, $470 million. And the city still owes $440 million on a 40-year-old convention center. And you say, well, what's the big deal? Here's a story from the downtown news from January of 2009. Nelson Rising. In 1974, talking about Tom Bradley and LA Live. What we really need is a convention center downtown hotel. So the same people who had their hands in the cookie jar for over 30 years, 40 years, and you're going to make a big decision. Here's a story from March 26th, architect picked for stadium plan. The architect has worked at Lincoln Field, home of the Philadelphia Eagles, one of the greenest stadiums in all of America. I don't hear anybody talking about greening out this new stadium to be proposed. They're going to have turbines to generate electricity. They're going to have over 50% recyclable at Veterans Stadium, at Lincoln Field. What do they got at AEG? Here's a good deal for farmers market because people are talking about getting money from the naming rights. And somebody wants to know about advertising at the convention center. Well, the advertising at the convention center was sold out by the Trade and Commerce Tourism Committee about 2.5 years ago. And as far as getting money from farmers, well, read this story. Good deal for farmers or customers, where farmers took advantage, got extra $9 billion in 1999 from their customers.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Ramiro Bravo is the next speaker.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. I want to bring to your attention two congressional reports. One, the so-called Phil Angelides report from last year, in fact, documenting the kind of steps that we're taking to bring under deregulation the entire banking system here in the United States. And it goes step by step what kind of regulations were repealed, including the Glass-Steagall regulation of 1933 that led to the hyperinflation of housing prices, of other commodities, and speculation just went rampant after that. The other congressional report that I want to bring to your attention is actually the Carl Levin report, which just came out about 2 weeks ago or so, which again goes through the type of corruption in the market values of so-called derivatives, mortgage-backed securities, and how all these things are demanding, it becomes necessary for the government either to abandon them completely and bring about a new credit system or to bail them out. And that's what we have seen since 2007, the policy of bailing out these speculative financial instruments. And the other thing is that the person that has been most clear as to the consequences of not restoring Glass-Steagall is Lyndon LaRouche. And in fact, what he has said is that without Glass-Steagall, the United States is not going to continue to function as a nation. So that's what I got right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we go to Van Nuys now, to Candido Moraz, and to Gary Parker.
I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Zine for he always puts on a great event, and it was a privilege to be there where he honored those who have sworn to protect and serve. And I want to give a big shout out to his staff, and especially Jose out there. I also would like to give a big shout out to Mr. Nichols. Last week we took some students from North Hollywood High School by City Council so that they could see City Hall, and we want to thank Mr. Kokorian for taking the time to meet with the students from North Hollywood. But then we went on to DWP, and it was like somebody had unlocked the cells. Mr. Nichols, in the short time that he's been there, has been outstanding. We were able to go there. The kids were able to enjoy the cafeteria. We were able to sit outside, and then we went on to the commissioners meeting where they were introduced. So again, Mr. Nichols, we want to thank you for unlocking and freeing us and allowing us to park on the facilities at the Hope facility. I also want to give a big shout out to the Dodgers for hiring Captain Weimer. I had the honor and privilege to work with him back in the 90s with the Jeopardy program, and we know that he'll protect and keep children and families safe there, but he won't turn it into a prison. He'll make sure that people respect the law and that they will feel safe there. Lastly, I'd like to talk about, Madam President, tomorrow on Channel 2, David Goldstein will be, he has a show kind of following city workers who are using public vehicles. I brought that up last week, and I brought it up in January and last year. We need to save money on gas, and but I'd like to come back and talk to the public on Friday, and let's really take a look at what David Goldstein was looking. Who was he following? There are bigger problems, and there's more waste in the city contracting process that we have in the city of Los Angeles. If we really want to save the ratepayers and the people of this great city money, let us take a look at all contracts that the city has, review them, and we can make sure that we save dollars in big numbers there. So I hope that we'll take a look at... Oh, it is? I'm still on TV? Madam President, is my time up? I guess it is.
Yes, Mr. Moraz. We still have Mr. Parker and Van Nuys. Is there a Mr. Parker and Van Nuys?
Yes, there is.
Back to Van Nuys? Okay, there he is.
Good morning. My name is Gary Parker. I'm a member of IBW Local 11, and I live in Los Angeles. I support Farmers Field. It'll bring a lot of good jobs into our great city, and I ask you for your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. We'll back to Waylon Spencer. And then Waylon Spencer, Maricela Reed. Is Maricela Reed here? And Juan Avila.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. I'm with Local 416, Reinforcing Iron Workers. I preside in Norwalk, California. Having the Farmers Field Football Stadium in downtown will bring more business, conventions, and tourism to LA, which means more good jobs and a stronger local economy for everyone. We need the City Council to support this project, and also don't forget the Wilshire Grant project. Thank you for your time and patience.
Maricela Reed.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Maricela Reed. I live in Bedflower, and I heard to send the support Farmers Field the down studio proposal. I member Local 416 idle worker. I having at the football stadium in downtown. We will bring in more business, convention, and tourists Los Angeles, which means more good job and a stronger local economy for everyone. We need the council support this project.
Juan Avila.
Good morning, City Council members. My name is Juan Avila, and I live in Riverside. I'm here to say that I support the Farmers Field downtown stadium proposal, and The project will create tens of thousands of good middle-class jobs in the city of LA. We need the city council to support this project. Thank you.
Armanak Narajian.
Respectable City Council members, dear fellow Angelinos, as a liberal Democrat and human rights advocate, I proudly announce my candidacy to win the seat of California State Assembly next year. I ran my election campaigns on principles of legal and social justice, racial integration and technological revolution. I need Californian patriots' help and support to raise funds to help me wage a Los Angeles-based campaign against wasteful spending and government corruption. I ask progressive public and patriots, union members, to contribute money donation to my electoral campaign to help me replenish state of California coffers with higher taxes in order to avoid layoffs and painful layoffs and save pension funds for state workers. Call my cell phone number 323-445-1600 or write to my email address freeliberal@offering.net with your tangible support. As a tax and spend liberal, I will raise taxes against wealthy, tax evaded and rich corporations, especially oil corporations, about 50%. I demand expedited issuance of Section 8 housing vouchers to working poor Californians within 6 months or less, so they could have bought real estate or paid rent with a Section 8 program, social program that would empower working class people and increase retail sales, which have boosted the California economy. I also demand closing down so-called medical marijuana dispensaries that rip off California big times, charging up to $200 per 1 ounce on illegal dope. I have palpable support of 56% of California voters that rejected legalization of harmful narcotic marijuana last November, voted against Proposition 19, according to MSNBC report. I will fight freeway car jams with new commercial satellites that will be bought with higher taxes against the wealthy, and will supply commercial phone satellites service by compliments to the state of California in order to provide cell phone service in rural and forested areas of high desert and rustic country, where regular phones are cell service and yellow box roadside service is unavailable.
Thank you very much. That marks the end of our public comment. There are no additional public comment cards. Mr. Clerk, it looks like our guests are here now for items, I believe it's 30 and 31? All right, 30 and 31 for Denim Day in the city of Los Angeles. All right, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, and colleagues, thank you. This is a day when I remember my first year on council, somebody called our field office and said, my council member's in council wearing jeans. I don't think that's very councilmanic, or it doesn't look like what a council member should be. And that day, my staff, who were also all dressed in denim that day, said, well, let me tell you why your council member is in jeans. And I hope that all of us that are in jeans today have dozens and hundreds and thousands of conversations in this city today about why the city council and the mayor and the city controller, who I was just with, both of them, why we have staff members, why we have police officers, why we have folks throughout the city today that are wearing Denim Day. Wearing denim for Denim Day. And first, let me thank Peace Over Violence. We just came from a press conference where we announced today the backlog of historic DNA kits that had gone untested is now at 0. We have kits that we have. It's a big day for Los Angeles. Chief Charlie Beck, who led the way before he was chief, and I said it's probably one of the reasons he is chief today, was there. Peace Over Violence, the Rape Treatment Center, Human Rights Watch, the advocate community who has never let up on this issue. Controller Chick, Jack Weiss, who used to be in here, our great chair of public safety, Greg Smith, and others. But it is a day for us at least to make sure that we have unrighted a wrong in the past. But I want to thank Peace Over Violence and all the other advocates who work every single day to stop violence against women in our city and our nation as a whole. Today I had another one of those conversations. I was getting in my car and a neighbor said, you're wearing jeans today for council? And I said, actually, it's Denim Day. And they said, well, what's Denim Day? I said, well, there was an Italian Supreme Court case in which a rape conviction was overturned because they said the woman was wearing jeans. My neighbor said, "That's crazy. Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, that actually happened." And we commemorate that every single year because being raped is being a victim once. Seeing people not be aware throughout, whether it's a DNA kit that doesn't get processed, whether it is a court that overturns a conviction, is a second violation of human rights. And today we stand up against the acts of injustice that cause sexual violence in our community, but also the way that we process that as part of our government here in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you to Patty Giggins for her incredible commitment and leadership each year she and Peace Over Violence have brought in. And we were just talking to each other, and she said, it's remarkable to see the transformation in the relationship between Peace Over Violence, formerly Los Angeles Commission on Assaults Against Women, and the law enforcement community, where it started as something adversarial, and now I think among your closest friends and allies are the law enforcement community. And that transformation has been accomplished one relationship at a time by Peace Over Violence. And I'm proud to be a strong, strong supporter of yours and to be an ally here in the council. But today, every 2 minutes, someone in America is still sexually assaulted. Approximately 1 in 6 women are raped sometime in their lifetime, and 44% of our assaults, listen to this, 44% of our sexual assaults are to youths under 18 years old. These numbers are shocking, but we can't think in terms of statistics. We have to think in terms of people, human lives, mothers, sisters, daughters, friends. We know sexual violence happens to boys and men as well. We owe it to each and every one of them to speak out and to say that no, enough is enough. Another number I want to report on that I mentioned before was the 7,000 untested rape kits. While today we still have rape kits that we unfortunately have brought in the last 5 months, in the last 30 days, that now have a better process for being processed, but it's stark physical evidence that this problem has not gone away. With the help of many in this room, we have stood fast for the hiring of the criminalists to make sure that this day would come. Greg Smith laid down the gauntlet, and I'll let him speak to it in a second for the budget deliberations that are going to come in a moment, but to never back off the commitment of this council to making sure that we take sexual predators off the street and bring some sense of justice to the people that they prey upon. So today on Denim Day, and to all of you and everybody watching at home and everybody here in the audience, this kind of backlog will never, never be allowed to build up again on this council. We will make sure of that. But we're also here today to educate, to inform, and to warn. There are plenty of rationalizations, but the bottom line is that there is never an invitation to rape. There is no excuse, anytime, anywhere, for rape. We say this to victims and offenders, and we want women to come forward. We want survivors to emerge from the victimization that they have. And ladies and gentlemen, in hopes of a safer world, where empowerment and respect are universal, especially among young women and men, the City of Los Angeles today declares April 27, 2011 as Denim Day and designates April 2011 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Thank you. I know Mr. LaBonge and Ms. Perry and some others are going to speak, and then we'd like Peace Over Violence, after we all speak, to come forward to give a report on sexual assault and the DNA rape kit situation. Thank you very much.
Before they come to the table, Mr. Garcetti, we have a few members who want to say a few words, and I would like to add my words into words of gratitude and thanks to Patty and to the organization for the simple act that you do year after year, reminding people to wear denim, to raise the awareness of the issue, and to what I consider to be the most special part of your presentation, to bring someone forward who can actually share their recovery experiences with all of those who will listen. So I want to say thank you very much, and call on Mr. Zine, Mr. Smith, Mr. LaBonge, and you're on.
Did you want to go first?
All right, why don't you let Ms. Hahn go first?
Ms. Hahn?
Then Mr. Zine, Smith, LaBonge.
Thank you. I was just informed by Garcetti's office that I was supposed to be after you. So thank you. And I just really want to congratulate Peace Over Violence for making this a priority here in the city of Los Angeles. And again, I think it's apropos to, again, talk about the history and talk about why we wear denim on this day. And it was 17 years, a 17-year-old girl was whisked up by her 56-year-old instructor for her very first driving lesson. An hour later, raped and abandoned by him in an alley, she had to fend for her way back home. Undeterred, she prosecuted him and won. The driving instructor was convicted of rape and sentenced to jail. Months later, the perpetrator appeals the sentence. The case makes its way all the way to the Italian Supreme Court. Within a matter of days, the case against the driving instructor is overturned, dismissed, and the perpetrator released. Why are we wearing denim? Because in a statement released by the head judge, he argued, because the victim wore very, very tight jeans, she had to help him remove them. And by removing the jeans, it was no longer rape, but consensual sex. Enraged by the verdict, within a matter of hours, the women in the Italian parliament launched into immediate action and protested by wearing jeans to work. This call to action motivated and emboldened our own California Senate and Assembly to do the same, which in turn spread to Patricia Giggins, Executive Director of Peace Over Violence, and Denim Day in Los Angeles was born. And I think it is so impressive that everyone is wearing jeans today. The only 2 women on the City Council, but really more significantly, the men in the City Council chambers are also joining us by wearing jeans and saying there is no excuse for rape. There is no way to blame the victim for this horrible crime that is put on them. So I want to thank Patricia Giggins, I want to thank Peace Over Violence for allowing this to be recognized every year. And I agree, Mr. Garcetti, I've already gotten the questions today, why are you wearing jeans? And it's really amazing to tell this story and still realize that people have never heard the story and are shocked, but it makes people for the rest of the day think about what this truly means, and hopefully this thing that we do once a year will spread awareness and will educate people over this violent crime that's committed against women. Thank you.
Mr. Zine?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to, Patty, I remember when this first started a number of years ago, and people would question what it's all about. I've been here for 9 years. I think you've been here for at least 9. It's grown in momentum. I heard it on the news this morning. The word is getting out. It's taken a long time. You've been persistent. I want to acknowledge you and your group that's continued this year after year after year. The message is getting out, and it's taken a long time to get to this point. There's still more work to be done. I know you've gone from buttons to shirts, and Ms. Hahn is wearing one of the shirts. Can you turn around, Ms. Hahn, to see the back of that shirt? Back of that shirt? Ms. Hahn, can you turn around and see the back of the shirt? The back, there we go. It's like everybody knows what it's about now. So I want to acknowledge and commend you for making it happen. And it's commendable to the LAPD. They finally cleaned up that backlog. So it's like climbing that mountain. You finally reached that mountain, and acknowledgments to the great work you've done. I've got the badges. I've got the denim. A total strong supporter of this. And Mr. Smith, our chair of public safety, reserve police officer, who also works to try and solve crimes in the LAPD. In addition to all his other activities, it's everyone coming together to make that difference. So acknowledgments, congratulations. I know you'll be here next year, and every day we do a little bit more to make it known. But I'm amazed at how much publicity has been generated with where it started and where it's become. So congratulations, and we're here with you. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate everyone talking about this today. And Ms. Hahn, I thank you for reading that story one more time, because every time I hear it, I cannot believe that any human being would come to such a ridiculous conclusion as that judge did. But the accomplishments of today is a great victory for this city, that, and as I mentioned earlier with the mayor and Mr. Garcetti, that through this crisis we've been in financially, that this council has never backed away one single penny. We've always funded fully the agreement we made with the advocates to fund this program, to get it done, to meet the timelines we set up. We could have easily said, we don't have the money right now, we got to take a time out, we can't go forward. But while we were laying people off and furloughing people, we kept the commitment 100%, never backed away from it, and today we're celebrating that moment. But the point that needs to be made is this is only the beginning of Phase 2. We finished Phase 1, which is eliminate the backlog. Phase 2 is a commitment that this council must make, and some of you, and Mr. Krikorin, you'll be here for a long time, and Mr. Koretz and others probably will. You'll all be here for a long time. I will be leaving in a few months, but the commitment is this is just the beginning of the next phase. And the next phase is we can never back off of this commitment. The commitment must be to the LAPD to continue to fund DNA evidence collection and research, that we must continue to fund fully the rape kit testing that goes on in LAPD, so there's never a single case that lags more than 30 days in the normal processing. So we never have to say to a single woman or man that we aren't doing it because we don't have the money, that we can never make them a second victim a second time. And so that is an important commitment. I hope you will keep that commitment strong, that you will continue to fund this organization within the LAPD, because not only is it a tool for solving rapes, but it's a tool for the future of LAPD. DNA evidence collection and research is blooming internationally. And what we are solving now, and you saw that with the recent solving of the Grim Sleeper case that Mr. Parks is very aware of, that was done with DNA. We solved a murder just yesterday, a 1987 murder that was solved yesterday with DNA. And so these cases continue to come forward and be solved, and we'll be able to say the victims have been waiting for sometimes decades, that through the use of DNA, we solve that crime. And so this is an important commitment we have made. You should be very proud of all of us. There's not a lot we've been proud of lately around here, but that's one instance we can all be very proud of. And so the challenge we will begin at 1 o'clock today, as we look in the budget of LAPD once again, is it is fully funded this year, that we have 98 inspectors on the SID unit later in the year, and that we have a full commitment to continue to fund that fully. And I hope and I beg that you will continue that, because if you don't, I will be sitting right there with those ladies next time and reminding you, as a citizen, that you made a commitment and you got to keep to it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Labange.
And I want to rise to congratulate everybody who has been involved in this. I think the most important thing you said, Mr. Smith, is you used the word evidence, because for many, many years we talked about kits, but when we put the word evidence there, that's a real testament to a real tragedy of a crime against somebody, and that evidence should always be processed, and justice should always be served. And as others had mentioned, as Mr. Garcetti, a Silver Laker, woke up this morning and his neighbor asked him, why are you wearing jeans? And you're able to tell the story. As Ms. Hahn recited in her words the history of a 17-year-old girl, the beauty of life is the friendships, and the friendships you meet in people. But when someone is violated, it absolutely destroys it. So peace over violence is so important, and this is true also for LGBT, and very important for people, because there's violence in all communities. And in the last 50 years, the sexual revolution has changed the dynamic, not just in America, but around the world. But respect for people and the dignity for people is so important. For one to have a successful life, they must have respect, and respect for others. So I just want to stand and thank everybody today. And I just thought just last week it was Earth Day. Many, many things have happened in the last several years that have been milestones that we remember as important days of issues. And Patty, I want to thank you again, because when you were first down here several years ago, there was a tragedy at John Marshall High, and you led a vigil across the Hyperion Bridge. Mr. Garcetti was there to bring awareness, which now is incorporated in the student's life. So, Madam President, thank you very much. And let's all remember Dedham Day.
Mr. Labange. Mr. Rosendahl is our next speaker.
Oh, and last thing I do want to say, I just want to put a shout out to our former colleague, Jack Weiss, who's sitting next to you over there, who is often a champion for this, who was able to help in any way he can. Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Tommy, for that as well. Jack Weiss did a great thing with that, and our President Eric Garcetti's leadership with Mr. Smith and others have brought us to a point where we no longer have a backlog of rape kits. But I stand also with my jeans on to talk about gay people and the issues of violence among gay people. There are difficulties in collecting data, statistical data, mainly because of underreporting. Many men feel they cannot get the same help offered to heterosexual couples. What's happened is this. While we raise the awareness of sexual assault, domestic violence, we should also talk about same-sex violence. Intimate partner violence is a serious problem. Every year in the United States, 3.2 million men are the victims of an assault by an intimate partner. Most are relatively minor, pushing, shoving, slapping, or hitting. Some end in homicides. Violence within gay relationships is a recognized health problem. Gay people who are having these kinds of difficulties have a hard time expressing it. It's hard enough to express the fact that you are gay and that you're having a relationship. And when a relationship goes sour, there's not much talk about it. It's really difficult for men and women, gay and lesbians, to get that information out into themselves. But I say to anybody watching this, if you have an issue in your relationship or someone is causing tremendous problems for you, please call 800-787-3224. There are counselors on the phone that understand the issues among gay people and their relationships that end up in violence. We must talk about all violence. That's domestic violence based on sexual orientation, just based on sex itself, just based on people losing their mind over situations. So I always appreciate Denim Day, and I always appreciate the fact that we're held accountable to any form of violence is unacceptable. Gay bashing violence is as unacceptable as rape is among heterosexual partners. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Garcetti.
At this point, I'd like to invite Peace Over Violence to come up forward. We all know the landmark study that we had seen before, A Painful Truth, a retrospective of a decade of sexual violence. They're going to present an update here for 2011, and it's, to your point, Mr. Rosendahl, and to what others have said, some of the particular issues within the spectrum of sexual violence, whether it is women who are returning from the military, who are homeless on our streets right now, dealing with the trauma of a phenomenon that unfortunately in our military of sexual violence, whether it's looking at men as victims that are here of sexual assault, the DNA issues, the very difficult issue of prison rape, which, you know, we see so much in popular culture. It's, for a long time it has been just accepted, jokes about being raped because you're a prisoner, and very hard work that people are doing at the national level. I'd like to turn it over to Patty and her team to present this report, and they'll be happy to answer any questions following. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And I don't know if it's appropriate to say Happy Denim Day, but Happy
sure.
Denim Day.
Why not?
And today is a happy day because absolutely we are celebrating the fact that we got those almost 7,000 at one point backlog kits down to zero, the big zero. And it's quite remarkable that we have been able to do this, and I know that there are so many people who have worked on this and helped with this over the last 7 to 8 years, and I just want to appreciate all of you, all of the members here, some of the members who are no longer here. I heard former council members Jack Weiss's name. There are certainly former city council member Wendy Gruhl, who's now the controller, all of you. And I also want to, I'm not going to name you individually, but many of you have actually supported Denim Day financially. This is a project that we do every year. We do it on a very small budget, but we really get a big bang. We spend about $35,000, $40,000, that's it. But it is now not only national, Denim Days in New York, Boston, Austin, all over the country. Denim Day in Ghana this year, and Denim Day in Turkey. Wow. What's happening is that organizations and individuals are just having their own events. And what started as a protest, and you all know the story, has now turned into a day of education, a national day of education, and soon to be an international day of education. I have two authentic voices that I'm going to introduce you to in a minute, but I just wanted to alert you to some of the things that are going on currently. We're getting more leadership from Washington on this topic. I don't know if you've heard, but that there's a national initiative that was started by Vice President Biden to encourage colleges, universities, and K through 12 campuses to take action to prevent sexual violence on campuses. There's a DOJ study that says 1 in 5 college women will be sexually assaulted during post-secondary studies. And now there is a mandate from Washington to deal with this issue. And the Federal Department of Education sent a letter clarifying the responsibilities that schools have and that educators have under Title IX. So Title IX is not just about sports equity, gender equity in sports. It is about safety, equitable safety on campuses. And the law requires schools to prevent gender-based violence. And our own LA Unified School District is a partner in Denim Day. They've declared Denim Day LAUSD. And the new superintendent, I'd like to quote in the press release that our new superintendent, Deasy, sent out. He said, "Let us unite against the rape of girls, women, boys, and men. With our genes, we support survivors. We will make a statement to break the silence, to end the violence." And this kind of leadership, the leadership that's been provided here, the leadership that's been provided by our chief, Charlie Beck from LAPD, the leadership of the advocacy organizations, this is what we have to keep whittling at day after day, month after month, year after year. The celebration today, really, I don't think we can applaud enough the fact that we now have a zero backlog. We're starting phase 2, as Councilmember Smith so eloquently has framed, to make sure that this does not happen again. And I know there's going to be budgetary hassles and struggles, and I do feel that the commitment is there. I hope that everyone really follows through on this commitment, because science has gotten ahead of us in a lot of ways, and we have to stay in tune with science, especially when it comes to public safety. There is a new bill that's being introduced by Assemblymember Portantino, which has to do with statewide DNA, Assembly Bill 322, that Peace Over Violence is supporting, and it would increase the transparency in DNA backlogs around the state by requiring local law enforcement agencies to report the number of rape kits collected and tested annually, and also require the agencies to submit the rape kits for testing within 30 days. This way that by the end of 2014, there will be no backlog anywhere in the state of California. Apropos of today with the number 0, I want to introduce you to someone who came and spoke to you 2 years ago, and I brought her back today. She's an authentic voice. She's a voice over violence, and she has an update to give you about her case and her experience with the rape evidence kit backlog. I'd like to introduce once again to you Helen Lazaro.
Well, I was here, and I'm sorry, just a year ago. A year ago on Denim Day, I was here telling my story, and my story is about a kit that wasn't tested, an assault that occurred when I was 17, and results that just didn't happen. And when I was here, we tested that kit and found that it matched to a serial rapist who was then being investigated. Today, I can sit here and tell you that now, at this very moment, in the Whittier Courthouse, he is pleading to a 25-year to life sentence. Right now.
Right now.
So thank you for your support, everyone here, and I'm so happy to see how things have changed in this last year for myself and for the cause.
The Painful Truth, which is the title of our update, our report, I think everyone has got a copy. If you like, we can also email PDFs to you, is that sexual violence is everywhere. It's within families, in marriages, in jails, in prisons. It's within institutions, and then it's covered up. It's within the military. There's a new study that was just reported in Newsweek that 50,000 vets, military vets of our armed forces, tested positive for sexual violence while in the military by other military. Now, this we're talking about male-on-male sexual violence. The fact that each year, the way we frame our campaign is each year we want to highlight a different aspect of this epidemic and this pervasive trauma. A couple of years ago, we had the folks from Just Detention International focusing on prison rape. Each year, we try to make the invisible visible. This year, I'm really pleased to focus. What we're doing is we have a whole new campaign, that piece that we've added to our No Excuses campaign. Our No Excuses campaign says that there's no excuse for rape because she was wearing tight jeans or that she was asking for it. She was flirting online. That's not an excuse. She was drunk and partying. That's not an excuse. The intensity got to him. She has sex for money. No excuse, not an invitation. Rape is not part of the sentence. You should not go to prison or jail and then have trauma imposed on you. We have a bystander focus also where we say there is no excuse not to support survivors. They don't deserve the shame or the blame. There is no excuse to joke about rape. Sexual assault is not funny, and trauma from rape is no joke. There is no excuse not to support male survivors, and that's our focus this year in our campaign. And I'm so pleased to present to you today the founder and executive director of 1 in 6, which is a fairly new organization. It's almost 4 years old now, that focuses on men who are sexually abused or had unwanted sexual contact as boys. And this is an issue, and we keep trying to raise these issues. It's so difficult and challenging for men to come forward. First of all, it's hard for boys to come forward, and then they grow up, and it's even more difficult for them to come forward to seek help, even when their lives may be falling apart. They don't know why. And so there's this new organization here in Los Angeles, and it's a national organization. I happen to be on Steve's board of directors of 1 in 6. So, again, I present to you another authentic voice, Steve Lepore.
Patty, thank you, and thank you for the great honor to come before you. I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. The statistic is 1 in 6. I did a head count when I walked in the room. I'm going to guess that there's somewhere between 10 and 15 of us in this room today. Every ethnicity, every age group, every socioeconomic background. 1 in 6 suffered at the hands, and mind you, suffered at the hands, most of us, by family members, by neighbors, by coaches, in rare occasion, less than 5%. Less than 5% by clergy. There are 19 million of us in the United States between the ages of 18 and whatever that suffered as children, as little boys, that don't have a voice. Our focus, thank goodness we're LA-based. I love it. I've lived here for most of my life. I've been in the nonprofit world for 25 years, and our work is all incubated here. What a great place to incubate work and then take it nationwide. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. Our focus now is to go into college campuses and to work with men who are younger, to work with men who are 18 to maybe 25 or 30. The reality is that I'm average. I started to work on my recovery when I was 46. I'm 54. The wake of destruction that follows behind me because I didn't do the work, because of the wardrobe that I put on every day when I left the house. We don't want to see younger men do that. We don't want to see folks who are going to UCLA or USC or to Pasadena City College suffer any longer than they need to. And all of us who are survivors, at some point or another, put a coat on before we walk out the door. We put 2 coats on. We put on the coat of shame, and we put on the coat of guilt. And the point of our organization is to help men and those that love and care about men take those coats off, to understand that services are available to them, To give you an idea of the magnitude of the problem, in LA County, men between the ages of 18 and 30, forget about those who are older than 30. In LA County, men between the ages of 18 and 30 who were sexually abused as children would fill the Rose Bowl twice. 2 times. We have a lot of work to do. We have an amazing website. We have a lending library that gives books away for free. We have a 24/7 hotline, because if you're a guy like me, the shame and the guilt that you wore every day was not something that you wanted to be public about. You can talk to someone about it anonymously. We have a training curriculum now that we're launching and have launched nationwide, and then just this just this month actually, we begin our outreach on college campuses here in the LA area. It's an online hotline. It's all done electronically through our website, onein6.org. 24/7. Volunteers nationwide have been trained to work on the issue. At any rate, thank you for the opportunity to address you. Thank you for the support that you've given Patty and her courageous group. It's a delight to partner with them, to call them a sister organization. And if there's anything that we can do to help you or any of your constituents, it would be our great honor.
We now have Mr. Alarcon.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for being champions for what you do. My mother was raped violently at 62 years old. She was on a vacation, and the district attorney at the time, this happened 24 years ago, and the district attorney at the time recommended to her that she not pursue her case because he didn't want to trouble her with having to go back to D.C. and testify against her rapist. But that district attorney did not know my mom. And so my mom fought the case, and there was insurmountable evidence. I remember reading the police report and just breaking down crying because I couldn't believe what my mother had to go through. So she won, and she put him in jail, and he was married, had 3 children, and I just want to express that I'm not wearing jeans because I like to wear jeans. I do like to wear jeans, but I wear them for my mom, and I want to thank you again for everything you did.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and thank you, Councilmember Alarcon. And I just want to say, when this happens to a family member, it's their story, but it's also our story. So thank you for sharing your mother's story and your story.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Alarcon, as well. And thank you to our team at the table as well for what you've done. Thank you for sharing the story since last year. I mean, as we were saying in there, it's not about numbers, it's about people, and to have it be a person that we welcomed here before really brought tears to my eyes, and thank you for having the courage to stay with us while we made things better. With that, I just want to give these 2 certificates of recognition on Denim Day and Sexual Assault Awareness Month on behalf of this entire council to you. Have those conversations throughout this day. Have them beyond this day. This is one day where people will come up to you, but as was mentioned, this is around us always. And until a day that we can say that it no longer exists, which is our ultimate goal, it is incumbent upon all of us to tell our stories, to reach out to our friends, to check in with people we know who are survivors, because it's always an ongoing healing process, and to be there with strength, to be there with power, and ultimately to be there with peace. So thank you so much, and look forward to a day of raising that awareness and putting this to an end. Thank you.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I appreciate everything you've just said, and I'm delighted that you're sitting up there. But also, it was kind of alluded to, but the reality is, in the prison system, male rape happens every single day. I've toured the county prisons. Lee Baca is an evolved spirit. He's one of the amazing social worker type cops, and it's a good thing. And he gave me that opportunity about 10 years ago. And I walked through areas in the county jail where it was very clear to me that there was sexual intimacy. Part of it has to do with the macho game of who's the big shot in the cell, okay? And we've been working with condoms as a strategy among them. Because what happens is this. A guy gets raped in prison by another guy. This is jail sex. It's a different world than outside, okay? And when that person goes outside, he's back in with his girlfriend or his wife. And what does he do? He transmits sexual diseases, including AIDS. That's why, besides young kids having sex and getting AIDS, it's women of color. And that is coming in part from the criminal justice system and the prison system. So when we talk about the violence and sexual rape, it is a significant component in our prison systems in the United States. I'm ashamed of that. We need to not only have condoms there, but we need a better appreciation in the prisons that goes on all the time. And when a guy gets out of prison, that's the last thing he's going to tell anybody, that he had that kind of sex in prison. So I just wanted to raise that again, just as another point in your great campaign as you continue to bring people into a more positive spot on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, I also want to thank you as well. I was fortunate to get to understand this issue, not only about Denim Day, but about people who are labeled as victims. And the most important thing that I think that could come out of today is the fact that when somebody tells us that 1 in 6 Americans as a child were molested, and the vast majority of that happens at the hands of people that they know or family members, etc. The thing that comes to mind to me is the main message is we shouldn't wait until it happens to someone we know. Worse, we could be sitting next to somebody, we could be raising somebody, we could be a family member of somebody that it happened to, but we don't know. And the reason why we don't know is because ignorance is something that prevails far too often, and that is the biggest perpetrator in any society to sustaining bad things happening to good people. And to me, I think it's really important that today is a day of recognizing that if we do expect and think that we are good people, we should not wait until it affects someone we care about. Or we shouldn't wait until we find out inadvertently that it had affected somebody that we know 5 and 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 years ago. What we should do is say, is this wrong? Which it is. And then we should say, what am I doing about it? Whether I'm a council member, whether I'm a father, whether I'm a brother, whether I'm a neighbor, or even if I'm a stranger. Because to me, that's supposedly what this country stands for. We supposedly go around the world saving lives, calling to action our country and our people to help people who need us. And yet at the same time, we have issues going on right here in our own homes, in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities. Yet at the same time, we need to be asking ourselves, what am I doing about it right now? So I want to thank you for reminding us and putting the mirror in front of our face that basically says, what am I doing about it? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you so much.
congratulations again for Denim Day in LA and around the United States. Tony Cardenas.
Are we ready to take up another item?
We need to vote on this matter first.
Okay.
So on this particular matter, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Very well. Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you, Mr. President. I asked the last president sitting in the chair about a half hour ago if we could take item 25 out of order. It will be quick.
We'll do that for you, sir. Number 25, Mr. Clerk, please bring that forward.
Very good. Go ahead. Thank you very much, Mr. President, members. As I mentioned, this should be quick, but it is important. Item 25 is accepting a $1 million grant from the Santa Monica Conservancy, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody that's been involved. I got involved in asking the Santa Monica Conservancy to please understand that we've done wonderful things on conserving our mountain ranges around the city of Los Angeles and making sure that that conservancy has been doing tremendous work. However, hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into those efforts throughout our community, and all of that is paid for by our taxpayers. And it's good and money well spent. But one of the things that I've been trying to remind the Conservancy is that there are many, many taxpayers and many of their children who are of low income and don't have the opportunity, aren't even aware about the Santa Monica Conservancy, who will never go to see these beautiful places and these facilities. Thankfully, the charter of the Santa Monica Conservancy does allow them to actually fund and entitle communities to go ahead and have that beautiful, pristine nature right there in their backyard. And that's what this $1 million is going for. It is going toward making sure that $1 million is going to complement a 40-plus acre park where we're going to incorporate native plants, we're going to incorporate the kind of atmosphere so that we don't have to wait until one of our children from the Northeast San Fernando Valley is fortunate enough to go see the beautiful, pristine land that has been conserved by the Santa Monica Conservancy, that the children can actually see that in their own neighborhood and experience it. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank John Muckrey and also Susan Huntley and Mike Shaw from the Recreation and Parks Department, also from the Bureau of Engineering, Gary Lee Moore and Neil Drucker, and also Bureau of Sanitation, Enrique Zaldivar, Khalil Garrios, Javier Polanco, and Jonathan Zari. Also, I'd like to thank the letters of support that we received for urging the Conservancy to provide us with this grant is the Senator for the area, Alex Padilla, and the Speaker of the State Assembly, John Perez, and also the Assembly Member for the area, which is Felipe Fuentes. And also I'd like to give a special thanks to my staff, Macaria Flores from my office that actually had to go to a meeting on Monday night and long agenda and had to listen to a lot of relevant and irrelevant things, but she waited very patiently and she very successfully made a presentation where all the questions were answered. So I would like to thank Macaria for her hard work and shepherding this along as far as we've gone. And this hopefully is just the beginning of experiencing and seeing the Santa Monica Conservancy come down into the Northeast Valley Basin and support us with tremendous projects, because quite frankly, the Conservancy does tremendous work, but it truly is in the backyards of millionaires. But at the same time, the Conservancy is not only supported, but it's funded and paid for by all the taxpayers in the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Labange is our next speaker. After that is Mr. Reyes.
Well, I wanted to rise to congratulate Mr. Cordes. There's nothing like getting land. There's nothing like making the land the people's land. And even those lands in the mountains are the people's land. So, in encouraging all people to find the public lands to experience nature, wherever it may be. But I also want to compliment the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy that did find a roadmap, because for many, many years it was west of the San Diego Freeway and partially just west of Cahuenga. But they've gone deep into the east side. I know in working with Elmira Canyon years ago, in the Highland Park area in El Sereno, the great work that Mr. Wesson has done at Baldwin Hills and the Kenneth Hahn State Park, all that's an important component. But for your work and the work that you did today, Tony, that fingerprint on that project is a way to say congratulations to you and your constituents.
Mr. Labange, thank you. And Mr. Reyes is our next speaker.
I want to join the chorus of congratulations. The Joe Evanston and the Santa Conservancy, the board, it's great to see their focus widen from just the mountains and the beaches to neighborhoods like ours. You know, in the Northeast, and right outside downtown near Belmont, they did Vista Hermosa. There's about 35 acres of park, the largest park outside of Griffin Park in the history of the city. And to hear to do 40 acres in your district is amazing. Along the river, they've done several pockets in Councilman Garcetti's district and mine. And it's been a movement that we see real tangibles in the past 15 years, which is relatively new given the history of the Conservancy. Like the way Joe describes it, the Santa Monica Mountains actually begin in the inner city, goes through our districts, and the pristine areas do happen to be in the perimeter. But now our kids can enjoy what you described. So hats off to you and your staff, and how hard that is. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Alarcon.
I also want to rise and thank Tony for taking care of my old neighborhood. This was I was raised on Wick Street. This park is the other street not mentioned in the motion is Wick Street, and I used to fly my kite at this site, but actually not exactly on this site because it used to be a landfill, and it's directly across the street from the high school that I went to. And I want to remind you that my sister, when she was going there, she's 14 years younger than me, they had to close down the school because the methane gas that was seeping out of the landfill was going into the gym, and they were actually fearful that the gym might explode. And so I can tell you the park that is coming is a long way away from that experience. My daughter goes to school across the street at Byrd Middle School, and so I pass this almost every day of the week when I take her to school. And I was just driving the other day saying, when are we going to get this thing done? And so I want to thank Tony for putting it together. This is, when I used to represent that area as the council member, we did a study and determined that there were 35 landfills within just a couple of miles of that site. And most of them all filled, but still concerns. And so to know that they are being put to productive use, in this case, a park that is sorely needed by this very dense community, is really commendable, and I want to thank again Tony. Just to speak to the density, they just built the middle school that my daughter attends there. Across the street is the high school, and next door to the middle school, they're building another middle school. That just tells you how concentrated the area is, and so there's no question this park is going to be sorely needed. A block or two away is Fernangeles Park, where I hit my first home run. So this is a very big win for people like me who grew up in the area, and I want to thank Tony for this tremendous accomplishment. Given that it was a landfill, and Tony did not mention that, that multiplies the difficulty, and so again we owe a debt of gratitude to Tony for seeing his way through this.
Thank you. Mr. Koretz is next, and then Mr. Cardenas.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Cardenas as well on a new park for his district, and I know you had some concerns about working with the Conservancy, but I know that all worked out very well, and I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. Just wanted to congratulate you on your good work for your district and all the residents of Los Angeles.
Mr. Rosendahl?
Thank you and shout out to you, Tony. That's real leadership, being able to pull something together like that. Joe Edmonston, has been running that whole situation for many, many years. Your ability to work with him and get that happening is very gratifying for all of us. All of us have the mountains, as you were saying. It starts in that end and ends up in the Palisades. And in fact, there was a mountain lion discovered 2 days ago crossing the street and jumping. That's how beautiful the pristine mountains can be. And to create a park and to make it happen for perpetuity, for everyone, forever, is something that leaves a legacy. That's a legacy of Tony Cardenas. Thank you so much.
Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. I promised brevity, so I want to thank you all for your comments and your understanding about how important these kinds of victories are, and somehow they do tend to be a bit difficult. But once again, I want to share my gratitude toward the Conservancy for listening and actually making the right decision of investing $1 million into my community. And you're right, Councilmember Alarcon, it used to be a former landfill. It's been capped off close to 40 years now, and now's the time for us to put it back into reuse, and it's going to be a great opportunity. We've already invested over $14 million into this park. We still have maybe another $13 to $17 million to go because it is rehabilitating it. It'd be good for people to understand. I don't want to scare people. The collector system for the methane gas has been completely torn out and replaced with the most modern system and design that we have on the planet today. So it's really important for us to understand that we're restoring this land and then bring it back into public use. I think much better use than a landfill, where people are going to actually be able to play, people are going to actually be able to enjoy themselves, people are going to be able to go for walks and be able to enjoy the land that belongs to the people of Los Angeles. So once again, I want to thank you all for your compliments, and also understand it's not easy to get money from the Conservancy, although I greatly do appreciate it. Speaking of Joe Edmondson, Mr. Rosendahl, he does pack a revolver, but that doesn't intimidate me. My job is to represent the people and to keep trying and working hard and bringing these victories home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas, and congratulations. Let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, that is approved. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 7, called Special for Councilmember Zine.
Mr. Zine?
There is a amending motion 7A, Zine Parks, that has been distributed to council for its consideration.
Okay, Mr. Zine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And this matter involves parking lots in the city of Los Angeles. Parking lots charge a 10% tax and collect that 10% tax. And what we have found is they're not paying that tax to the city of Los Angeles. They're holding on to that money. So we want to move forward with an important instruction that will allow us to properly collect what is rightfully due the city of Los Angeles that's already been collected by these parking lots. With the help of the Office of Finance, we will be amending the administrative code to allow for better communication between the Finance Department, which collects our parking and occupancy tax, and the Police Commission, which permits all parking lots around the city of Los Angeles. And sadly, the Police Commission, while they issue the permit, is not aware if a person is delinquent or not in paying the tax. So they're two separate entities under the city umbrella, not communicating. Brought to my attention that there's approximately $23 million, $23 million not being collected from parking lot operators.
Do you have a sign that might point that out better?
I have a sign, Mr. Garcetti. There you go.
Thank you. What's that equivalent to?
So we want to show you what $23 million pays for. It pays for 230 police officers, 230 firefighters, and 77 plus miles of street resurfacing. That's what $23 million will pay for. Who wants to take a picture?
Thank you. That's much clearer.
I don't want it to hide you, though, Mr. Wesson. Thank you.
Vanna Wesson will hold this.
All right. So now we have $23 million that's been collected, and these parking lot operators are holding that money. So it is a sad situation that they are keeping our money that they're collecting on behalf of the tax that we have applied for about 15 years. And we want to tighten the ordinance, call for additional enforcement regulations with revenue control equipment at lots which have already been revoked, but will prevent this fraudulent activity from continuing. And what they simply do is they owe us millions of dollars. They change the name of the lot. They change the family member who's operating the lot, and they go to the police commission to get a new permit, and they continue operating. So an example would be ABC parking lot. They change it to XYZ parking lot. They get another permit from the police commission. They still don't pay the money that's due. That's $23 million that is due to the taxpayers of Los Angeles. And if I can have the police department representative from the commission and Office of Finance please come forward and give us the solution to this dilemma.
Oh, you got another?
Here's another one. Mr. Wesson. It's show and tell time. Show and tell. All right, if I have a volunteer here, my colleague, Herb Wesson. Too bad we can't hold time, but I wish we could, Mr. President. So what we have is the Finance Department.
Yes.
You are
Good
the
morning.
general manager. Good
Yes,
morning.
I am.
And your job is to collect the money.
That is correct.
And you tell these people, give us the money, and what do they tell you?
Some pay, some don't.
Okay, and the ones that don't, we've assessed it at about $23 million.
We issue estimated assessments. We also have a parking revocation referral program that we collaborate with the Police Commission, where we identify parking lot operators who are delinquent. We also identify those who are delinquent and are not permitted, that is, they don't have a police permit. We send those revocation packages over to the Police Commission with Mr. T-Fank's staff, and they actually proceed on revoking the police permits, requiring the parking lot operators to pay the delinquent taxes. But not all of them
The taxes that they're already collecting from those people that park in the
That
lots.
is, those are taxes that they have collected on behalf of the City of Los Angeles that they're not remitting. So we believe that by instituting a number of controls up front to prevent them from even getting a police permit until they are current on their taxes, that is something that must happen, because we think that would definitely address it on the front end. And so the recommendations that are in the motion will definitely address that, so that we address it up front.
Mr. T-Fank from the Police Commission.
Yes, sir. Richard T. Fank, Executive Director of the Police Commission. As Ms. Cristobal indicated, we do have a good working relationship. Since 2008, with the Council passing an ordinance that allowed for the revocation of a permit of a parking lot operator that was in the arrears of fees, that process has now been in place since 2008. So how that would work is for a permitted lot that has not paid fees, once they've exhausted the administrative remedies through the Office of Finance, the Office of Finance then forwards that information to us. We put it before our police permit review panel, and the panel will revoke their permit to operate. We are not a collecting agency, but we can revoke their permits so they can no longer operate. And once we do that, we continue enforcement. If they are operating, we do arrest, or we cite the individuals and proceed through prosecution. There's another universe of parking lot operators who do not go through the permit process. And our enforcement folks, with the assistance of the Office of Finance, when they're out in the field doing some of their site visits, our enforcement officers will go by, identify the lots that are operating without permits. Again, we will make arrests or release from custody citations, seize their money, and shut them down because they have to get permits. What this process will help us do is, I believe within the motion, is they're looking at a bonding. And for all parking lot operators, that they would put a bond up to ensure the city gets its tax money. I think that is a very good preventative process to ensure that those operators do make the city whole, either through a bond or through them paying the 10% tax, which they're collecting in trust for the city. Also, the motion indicates that if there is an operator who has been suspended or revoked, that they would have to install some type of electronic equipment to capture who goes into that lot, capture the amount of money that is gathered by that entity, and then to ensure the city gets its 10% parking tax. We will work with the Office of Finance, researching those pieces of equipment, the cost. They would all be installed at the cost of the operator of the lot, and that's where the motion is, and we'll work with the Office of Finance to prepare the staff report and bring that back to council, sir.
And what happens is many lots change the name,
Yes,
continue in business. So with the Department of Finance and the Police Commission issues the permit, what other permits are issued to operate? Do they have to get a business license or any other components of the system that they can then continue operating? I mean, are you the two entities that they have to have permits from? Or is there any other department that is required to be involved in this?
I believe obviously there's a zoning issue, because the planning department would have to indicate that the site is appropriate. There's probably a building and safety component of that, possibly a fire component. Business registration tax certificate would come from the Office of Finance, and then we would issue the Police Commission permit for them to operate. So that would be that process for them to actually get a permit to operate.
Because we need to link this all together to make sure
and they are linked together, sir. I think that the piece that we're looking at now is twofold. One, to have such rigorous systems in place that will encourage people to pay their money when they collect their money, and then also to be very proactive with those individuals who are not paying their money in a very expedited process, so we can put them out of business as quickly as possible.
And I know that the $23 million continues to mount, and then if they just leave the area to chase these people down through a collection agency. The other question is, it's a cash business. For the most part, parking lots are a cash business, and I know that the Department of Finance actually does surveys to find out when they assess these dollars. It's just not the magic wand, but they actually go out there and they do the count. So the numbers that we're talking about have a real basis, and we just didn't create those $23 million just because it sounds good, but there's actually a process in place where you calculated the estimate value of what they owe the city.
Right, that is correct. We actually perform audits of parking lot operators. We also have an outside contractor who actually performs surveillances of the parking lot to determine and estimate what the amount that should be due to the city. Yes?
And we want to place a bond on these also, so that's all part of this.
Right. What we would like in terms of the motion for 2D is to have the bond requirement go forward. We know that the city attorney's office, we're going to be working with them, looking at the legal possibilities of doing that. But what we are asking that, assuming that it is something that we can proceed with, that we also require the city attorney's office to move forward with the ordinance so that when we come back to council, we'll have the ordinance ready to move forward, because we think it's very important to have the bonding in place, as Mr. Teefank mentioned.
Yes.
If you can get ahead of the game by requiring them to have money up front in the name of the city through a bond, if they do leave, the city can collect.
So, Mr. President, I would request that we approve this with the amendment that came along with 7A, that would permit the police department and also Department of Finance to collect the revenues and to keep the parking lots in line. That would be my request. Pardon me?
The city attorney to proceed with the ordinance.
To proceed with drafting the ordinance.
Contingent upon, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Gretz.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank Councilmember Zine for rectifying so many key issues on parking and all your good work in this arena. And I fully support your efforts to hear these in Audits Committee, but I'd like to request that one item, item 3, relating to the valet parking ordinance, be heard in full council. It's been over a year since the council requested this ordinance be heard, and it's been heard and approved in committee. And I know that council members are concerned that this come back to us and be implemented as soon as possible, particularly the residents and merchants along 3rd Street, which is, if there is a spot in the city, this is the wild, wild west of valet parking problems. Are particularly interested in hearing this, having this ordinance come back and be put into place as soon as possible. So with your support, I'd like to move a friendly amendment that one item come back to full council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zine supports that. Mr. Labange?
Mr. Zine, on these particular matters, what law is required on the posting of a sign into, you know where it says Joe's Parking in the rates? Are they all to be, and have they all been inspected to say 30% sale, 30% tax, or what's 10% tax? Right. They're all posted?
To 30, but it's 10.
They're all posted? And does this count, is this only lots that you pay by the hour, or let's say it's a monthly lot?
It could be actually a combination. It could be monthly or a daily lot.
Right, so that's not necessarily a cash over a day, it may be they're not there anymore, but let's say Lockheed had a facility in North Hollywood, they had a big employee parking lot, and their employees, would they have to pay, or how does it work on, how do we decide for the lots? Is it at every parking space, or is it only in?
No, the parking occupancy tax is applicable to public lots where there is a fee charge for parking. So if there is a business that offers parking to its employees and there is no charge to the public to park there, the parking
There's no charge.
does not apply.
If it's like an old shopping center, no charge for parking, there's no tax.
Correct.
Okay, very good. All right, Mr. Zine, I'm counting on you on this.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you. Speaking of counting on Mr. Zine, let's count for a second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to close by giving the Department of Finance the tools to do the job, along with the Police Commission. And again, to answer Mr. LaBonge's question, you go into an employee lot or you go into a free parking lot, it's only when that person's collecting those dollars from you that the tax is imposed at 10% tax, which again has been on the books for about 15 years. So we have $23 million that is outstanding, and this will prevent them from playing the game that they've been playing. And Mr. Koretz, with the valet parking, as you mentioned, that is a wild world because they park in residential areas, they charge people, they don't pay the tax. We need regulation on that, and we'll be working on that also. So go forward and collect the dollars in the proper fashion. Thank you. So request an aye vote?
Thank you, Mr. Zine, and thank you for moving a lot of this forward that's come out of, I know, the core commission work as well, and it's good to see this and move forward, especially in tough budget times. And thank you, Mr. Koretz, for mentioning the valet ordinance. As author of that, we've been waiting for a very long time, and so thank you, Mr. Zine, for understanding and helping that move forward as well. So please open the roll, and oh, sorry, there's an amendment to it, so that would trigger any cards. We do have one card. Mr. Sachs, if you'd like to come forward. We did have a previous hearing, but now with 7A, if you'd like to give some further comments. We've got a public speaker just right now.
Yes. Good afternoon. Thank you. Arnold Sachs. Very quickly regarding parking lots. I believe when the Grand Avenue project, the parking lot there was proposed, the part of the proposal is that the CRA will be taking over the parking lot. So how does the CRA run parking lots? What is their collection effort when they're on the parking lots that they own? Because I believe as part of that proposal, this is not the first parking lot that CRA owns in the city. So how come we don't hear problems with the CRA-owned parking lots collecting funds? How do they work their system that they can get the funds? Do they pay the 15% tax? Who pays the tax to the city on those parking lots? Why can't you have one consistent program with these parking lots? If the CRA, and we know how corrupt they are, can do it, why can't the city? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. That'll close our public comment again. Mr. Parks, did you have something on item 7, or after 7 is voted on? Was this about item 7 or after?
No, item 6. I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay,
Perry
hold on one
asked-
second. Let's just take a vote. If we can please open the roll on 7 as amended, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, yes, Mr. Parks.
Ms. Perry asked that we reconsider number 6 and continue it till Friday. There's some cosmetic things he has to do in the ordinance.
Okay, let's go ahead and open the roll on reconsidering number 6. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Without objection, we'll continue that to the 29th. That's this Friday. Thank you, Mr. Parks. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 16, called special for Council Member Hahn.
All right, Ms. Hahn, item number 16.
Colleagues, there's just a technical amendment on 16, and you've got a copy of it, so I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you. That is approved. Next item, please.
I'll recognize you.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 28, called special for cards.
Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Garcetti, number 17. Mr. Clerk, number 17 for Mr. Garcetti.
Very good, sir. Item 17.
Thank you, colleagues. Item number 17 is our memorandums of understanding for our union contracts with the Coalition of Civilian Unions. I know folks have a lot of things that are going on, but I think if I could ask folks for their attention on this, Mr. Krikoyan and Mr. Labange and others. These are our civilian contracts, so I just want to make sure that nobody doesn't follow. We're going to have the CAO here as well for any questions. Let me share the news that we just got from the Coalition of City Unions on the representative bargaining units that went out for ratification on the tentative agreement that we made with them. I think 14, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of the units. Remember, they don't ratify as a single unit. This is a coalition of 19 different units. 14 of the 19 said yes to the tentative agreement, ratified it, and 5 said no. Now, that would be about 80% of the units, but in terms of the number of people represented, it's about 57% of the people represented by the coalition said yes. About 43% said no. The largest units that said no were the clerical staff represented by AFSCME, the operating engineers, the City Attorneys Association, and a unit of safety and security employees that SEIU represents. We've been pretty clear, and already some folks have said, well, what does this mean for us? How do you feel about this? We have a balanced budget no matter which path of ratification was chosen. And we've tried, I think, to communicate as clearly as possible about what those two pathways were and give people the democratic rights that they have to either ratify or not. For those units that did ratify, the end of the furloughs would continue. Furloughs would be off the table and are gone. In exchange, they also are able to buy protection of the health care benefits they have right now when they retire for themselves and a spouse. Something that right now, while the benefit is vested, the soaring cost of health care, that increase is not vested, and under this agreement, we have said in exchange for adding in 4% more in terms of your own income to your retiree benefits, that would vest. We will take care in the future when there's those increases. For those that have not, the mayor's budget right now, and we begin our budget deliberations shortly after this meeting, those units would go back to furloughs for those that are not in special funds, and although the special funds right now are also endangered with some furloughs, that's probably at least 36 furloughs that would happen for those units that are getting a raise this coming year. And all of these had previously negotiated raises. So to counterbalance that, it will be 36 and possibly more from what I've heard from the CAO, but I think we should ask furloughs and no vesting of that health care. In fact, what we asked the city attorney to prepare, which will come back, I think, for us on Friday, I think it's going to be our strong recommendation that we move forward to make sure that we get those savings in another manner, because we simply have to get those savings across the board. There's two different paths to select, but we'll move forward with capping the retiree health care benefit for those employees of the units that did not ratify, which means future increases will not necessarily be covered by the city at all. Again, we are in better shape than we were last year. This is not a great management situation, because for managers, they're going to have some folks, again, that are furloughed and some that are not. So it would have been smoother and cleaner. But again, this was the democratic right of each one of these units. Other folks have asked, can it be revoted on? That is up to the unions themselves. But we will have a narrow window, obviously. We have about a month to put our budget together, and we're putting together with the assumption that those units do not, now that they have not ratified, will not move forward. So we need to cap that health care for retiree health care costs and reinstate at least those 36 furloughs. There could be also more layoffs in those areas as well. So in terms of service to the folks, one of the reasons I thought this was a good agreement, and for those, the majority of folks that did approve this and the overwhelming majority of individual units that approved it, I think this is a better path forward. Nobody said this was a great path forward. As we're looking at tough times, nobody wants to give up anything, but it's a responsible thing. It was negotiated through collective bargaining and ultimately ratified by a majority of folks. So I would recommend, this is partially an update. I think we have our CAO here. Folks have further questions. But instead of voting on it today, we'll prepare the paperwork for this Friday, for 2 days from now, to both move forward with the MOUs of those folks that did approve this. They deserve that. They negotiated good faith, and they approved it, so we should move forward with enacting our side of the bargain. For the others, we'll have to move forward with other ways to balance the budget, which we have been very crystal clear about here. It's in the mayor's budget. That would be the furloughs that we see, and also with the health care cap. So that is an update, and with that, I'll turn it over to the rest of the council and any questions for the CAO.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, either Mr. Garcetti answer this or come on up, Miguel. I'm very disappointed to hear that 43% of the bargaining units could not go for the pension and health care. My big question is, of the 43%, how many are on special funds, so therefore they won't get furloughed?
That's exactly the analysis we will be doing in the next few days. We know of the ones that did not certify, and the letters being passed out now that I received this morning from the coalition. Let's be clear, 80% of the bargaining units themselves supported it. Of the ones that did not, they represent 43% of the workforce. Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
So the ones that did not, the clerical unit obviously has a significant amount of members in the general funds. particularly in the police departments, but scattered throughout the system, including the city attorney. Obviously, the deputy city attorneys voted against it. Those are primarily general fund. The plant, equipment operations and repair, MOU 09, voted against it. They're do wastewater, and obviously in light of the pressures being put on that program, as we wrote in our mid-year report, without a rate increase, that particular bargaining unit is likely to face furloughs next year, and we're recommending that in the budget. Along with the mayor. Safety and security voted against it, and a significant number of those are in the general fund. But
Just tell me what the logic of this. I mean, just an explanation. Obviously, if you pay 4% into health care and you go 6% to 11% on pension, that for an employee would appear to me to be a better deal than getting a furlough situation that would mean more real time and real dollars lost. What is the explanations that you've been getting that suggest that 43% did not go for it? What was the anecdotal stories, or why couldn't they appreciate that we need to pay more in our health care, more in our pensions, to avoid layoffs? We don't want layoffs or furloughs. Furloughs mean services are denied the constituents who pay good bucks to go forward. What did they say to you?
You know, obviously everybody has their own personal reasons why. I go back to the issue that we talked about last week on retiree health care. What we try to do is find a way to maintain and protect retiree health care for our employees by asking that they contribute to it.
Correct.
Our fiscal situation continues to be in a delicate place, not just for next year, but in ongoing years. And we will continue to recommend strongly that your council vote to freeze the health care benefit, irregardless of the outcome of today's vote. I think that the value of that perhaps is not shared in the same way for others than it is for some, but clearly your decisive action on the issue of retiree health care will bring light to the importance it is both financially to the city as well as to individual employees.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Mr. LaBonge. Mr. LaBonge? Mr. LaBonge. Mr. LaBonge passes, thank you. Mr. Alarcon.
Council members, no, honestly, we've been putting our city employees through hell for the last several years. And today, we need to recognize the tremendous decision that they, by majority, have made. Those 14 units that voted to support this agreement deserve our kudos. These are people, many of which, by the way, librarians and sanitation workers in particular, who aren't being furloughed and are specially funded and are not going to be furloughed. And yet, they said, we've got to do this for all the city employees. This is a major give back to the city of Los Angeles and a major concession that will give us the opportunity to solve our budget crisis. And I just can't say enough for those units that supported this agreement. You have to think that every single one of these employees that voted for this had to consult with their families. And they had to ask their families, should we guarantee our medical benefits well into the future, but have to pay an additional thousands of dollars a year, which is what they are doing? And they said that all in all, that was the right thing to do. So this is not... I speak with mixed feelings here because I'm very proud of the city employees right now, but this is not necessarily a great thing for Los Angeles because it means we're cutting services and we're still in that mode. But nevertheless, we have to recognize, and particularly since we have put so much pressure on our employees, not just the ones who've been laid off or e-ripped or furloughed, but all the workers that have incredible pressure because other people have left the job and they've got double work and they're all pitching in. So this. We've got to approve these 14 agreements. And the other thing I want to say is the 42%, Mr. Rosendahl, the 42% is not significant. And the reason I say it's not significant is because we're talking about 18 separate units, 18 separate agreements. And each one, the percentages of each one are what are significant. With regard to the 14, what would be more significant to me if I cared, and I don't at this point, but what would be more significant is what was the percentage of each unit that ratified this agreement, because that is more significant, and we know that's going to be well above 58%. And so again, I rise to applaud the city employees for pitching in. We call it shared sacrifice. Well, they've done it over and over again, and we're doing it again. And I want to thank them for helping us make the decisions that we have to make. And we'll continue to work with the other four, but I especially wanted to point out the employees that supported this to share the burden, and particularly those who didn't have to, because they are already they're not going to be subject to any furloughs, and we really appreciate their contributions.
Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, I just want to briefly echo my colleagues' comments. Relations with unions tend to be adversarial, and in the case of our unions, I don't think they have. I think they've been our partners in getting through a very difficult time. In our 2009 budget, they gave back tens of millions of dollars, and that's part of how we got through our worst budget in many, many years. Faced with the same situation, we've had a number of bargaining units that have agreed to some things that are pretty dramatic. We're not happy to have to ask it of them, but we have, and they've responded. And some people avoid furloughs, and some people just recognize that this is better for their coworkers and for the city of Los Angeles. And I have to thank all of the folks that made this happen. I think this is a very positive day for the city of Los Angeles. I think it gives us a chance to get through this budget without doing the kind of damage we envisioned. It gives us a chance to get rid of many of the furloughs that have made the city less effective and have been disruptive to the lives of our employees as well. So I think this is a very positive day and a very strong first step towards getting through another very difficult budget year.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I certainly want to agree with my colleagues that the success of those agreements that have been ratified means significantly fewer cuts in services than would otherwise have to be made. And so this is definitely progress. It's definitely a big step forward. And I think all of us are reflective of our various districts. All of us are responsive in representative democracy to our constituents. And I think it needs to be said, so too are leaders of labor organizations. They need to be responsive to their members as well. And whereas we are all responsive, but sometimes have to do things that we know are right, even when they may be unpopular, it should be said that our labor leaders faced that situation with this ratification vote, and they proved to be our partners by negotiating with us, by taking a package back to their members that there was no guarantee that any of these would be ratified, and there was no guarantee that the decisions of those leaders would be supported by their members, but they did it because it was the right step to help the city get through this crisis, and also to protect their own members from further furloughs. And so I just want to say congratulations for the courage of our labor leaders in taking those agreements back to their members and It has been largely successful. I wish it had been more successful, but it has been largely successful. And Mr. Santana, if I may, the 4 units that have not ratified, can you say, as you sit here, what the number of employees in each of those units is, just so we can have a sense of the impact that the lack of ratification and therefore the furloughs in those areas will be? I assume that the clerical and the city attorneys forms the vast majority of those employees, but I'd like to get those numbers if I could.
In aggregate, the ones who voted no represent 6,300 employees. Specifically in clerical, they represent 4,116, about 24% of the general fund payroll. Of the plant equipment operations and repair, they represent 314. Of the deputy city attorneys, they represent 435. And of the safety and security MOU 18, they represent 1,444. And like I stated, they represent about 43% of the total number of employees, full-time employees in the city.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. So, colleagues, one thing a couple things I'd like to say again. Just for anybody who missed it, I'm recommending that we continue this item till Friday. That we ask our CAO to work out any paperwork issues and making sure the intent is crystal clear on what our agreements were bargained in good faith with those units that have approved this. Secondly, if you could help us, one of the things maybe we did a little bit of a disservice. I would like to know what we project our retiree health care costs to be for, let's say, the next 5 years. And I know that part of that is maybe you already have that, but if not, some kind of healthy, middle-of-the-road projection, because I think for a lot of folks, they felt like, well, it's frozen right now, I don't use it at all, or, I don't have a spouse right now, I don't need the two-party, whatever it is. We know that it's about $1,100 right now. We know it's not going to stay at $1,100, even with controlling some health care costs and the rise of some health care costs. If we could look at that the next 5 years. So an employee who is part of a unit that didn't ratify this can at least see what he or she is going to be looking at paying if that gets capped for the next 4 or 5 years. I think that is something that they deserve to see and should know. And then also what number of furlough days. It's been said already, I mentioned to you before, but are we looking at just 36? What are we going to be recommending? Because I've heard already that it may be higher, maybe 42, it may be something. I'm sure you'll be talking about that in the Budget Committee, but when this comes back here, I think that that's going to be important for folks to hear. A lot of these are from public safety-related units, and I don't want to crawl inside anybody's head and the reasons why. I went to a lot of employee meetings and really appreciated the back and forth that I was able to engage with a lot of employees. And I said, I can't make that decision for you, and I can only recommend what I think is best for the city and what will result in more take-home pay for you. There may be the calculation that we will not furlough civilians that are in the public safety realm, city attorneys, public safety professionals, etc. I think that nobody around here has suggested that we cannot furlough in those areas. And unless somebody stands up here and says something differently, while that compelling case can be made for a city attorney who will get a little bit less, as I calculated, to take home in their pocket and have less work days to get rid of that backlog, that is less safe for our public safety. So it's a very easy decision for us to continue to push and say, can we do something in which you get paid more and you work more days to make sure more criminals are off the streets, etc. How can we achieve that before this budget starts? Same thing with our security officers, our civilians who are jailers or clerical assistants who are in the police department. The operating engineers are the only unit that doesn't quite fit into that, and we'll have to talk to them and ask them, but that's the smallest, I think, of the three. by the floor, but that's going to be important to resolve, and I think they should have that full information so they can be prepared for their families, their health care, their house payments, everything else of what the impact of this coming year is going to be. That door remains open. It's not a threatening door, but I think it speaks for itself, and I've said that consistently myself. And so if there's any way for us in those units, if people, once the furloughs do begin to hit, once people understand what it costs for their health care, want to, in their own process through the CAO, come back and talk to us, that door remains open for us. We know the other pathway, and we're well today moving towards it now for those who did not approve.
That's our final speaker on the queue. We do have a public speaker on this matter, Arnold Sachs. Mr. Sachs, number 17. You have 1 minute left, Mr. Sachs. 1 minute.
2 minutes left, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. It's nice to hear the council speak up about their constituents. Oh, wait, nobody mentioned constituents, but there was a lot of talk about the workers. The constituents suffer here too. And remember, you're supposed to represent them. But more importantly, what is it going to cost the constituents? Remember the last time you negotiated? Mr. Koretz mentioned 2009, the budget deficit, but 2010 they got a 5% pay raise for the city family. So what will this negotiation cost maybe in 2012 or 2013? What is the trade-off going to be that isn't being talked about here? Because you can be sure that when the negotiations occurred for the last pay raise, nobody was mentioning, oh, by the way, if we lay anybody off, you'll get a 5% pay raise. That never came up until you had to lay people off.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Clerk, is there a vote on this matter? Continue till Friday? Okay. We will continue 17 till Friday. Thank you. Next item, please. 18?
We've heard 18 already.
So you want 18 forthwith?
Very good, sir.
Pardon me?
That would be fine, sir.
All right, so let's do 18 forthwith. Thank you.
Very good. Item 28 called special for cards.
Number 28. Arnold Sachs. Mr. Sachs out of time? Yeah. Mr. Sachs is out of time. All right, on that matter, seeing nothing, colleagues, open the roll. Pardon me? He has 1 more minute? Okay, well, I thought he used his last minute. Yeah, 1 more minute, Mr. Sachs. 1 more minute. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to items 32 through 35, today's closed session matters.
32. Mr. Parks? 32 through 35, closed session items?
Just 1 second. I would recommend on the closed session items that only item, only item 33 be in closed session. The other 3 can be in open session.
All right. Mr. Clerk?
Very good. That brings us to item 32. There is a recommendation to reject the plaintiff's offer of settlement in the case entitled Teresa Anderson versus City of Los Angeles.
On that matter, any questions, colleagues? Seeing none, open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, next item, Mr. Clerk.
That brings us to item 34. There is a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $175,000 in the case entitled Howard and Denise Simon versus City of Los Angeles.
Seeing no one on the queue, open the roll. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Next item, please. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, I'd like to ask for reconsideration on item 38. We were going to continue that, but it's ready now, and I'd like to ask that it be reconsidered and that we go ahead and approve the committee.
Okay, Mr. Krikorian, we'll do that as soon as we finish the current items, and we'll come back to that on reconsideration.
Oh, I thought we were done with this. Sorry.
We'll do that in a moment. Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
35, there is a recommendation for judgment in the amount of $221,115.45, plus interest on that sum running at 7% per year for judgment in the case entitled Javier Morales Hernandez versus City of Los Angeles.
See no one on the queue. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
Next item, please.
Very good, sir. I believe we could go to Councilmember
All right,
Krikorian.
and number 38, open for reconsideration. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
The matter is now for reconsideration. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the council concur with the Board of Water and Power Commissioners' action as stated in the item.
Very well. See no one on the queue. Open the roll on 38. Mr. Sachs is waving his hand. Mr. Sachs does have a card. Does he have 1 minute left? I was told he has 1 minute left. Does he or doesn't he? All right, go ahead, Mr. Sachs. 1 minute on 38.
Good afternoon again. Arnold Sachs. City-owned property, not city-owned property being approved by the Water and Power Commissioners, but it's city-owned property. So why is the money going into the Water and Power Revenue Fund? But more importantly, from last May, bill takes aim at loophole in corporate property tax. When this property gets sold, we need to make sure that the property is reassessed at the new value. If it's sold to a corporation, then the property value is assessed for pennies. This is a state bill that's being considered by Sacramento, should be upheld by the city. This is why the city's general fund gets shortfalls with all these major land developments.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Koretz, number 38.
Oh, actually, I just wanted to ask if we could have item 2 go forthwith.
Item 2 forthwith. No one to speak on number 38? Number 38 is before us. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 eyes.
Very well. Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 33 to be considered in closed session.
Very well. We're now going to go into closed session. We're going to do closed session here, Mr. LaBonge, right here in chambers. So if you're not here on item 30, 30 what? 33. Please leave the chambers. We're going to go into closed session for item number 33. Those individuals for 33, please come forward to the table. And we'll take that up as soon as the room is clear. Number 33.
for you.
Okay, pros, move over. It's time for the junior set. Helmets might be a good idea right about now. We'll bet this kid was glad he had one on when his head hit the pavement. But don't worry, even the pros, it seems, take a spill now and then. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The $200,000 Lincoln Skate Park is the 33rd sports facility that Nike Skateboard and the LA84 Foundation have teamed up for. And in this week's list of things to do, a documentary film, an adventure at sea, and the theater. Go see Neil Simon's The Prisoner of 2nd Avenue at the El Portal Theater in North Hollywood, which is running through May 15th. Simon's classic Tony-nominated American play is the story of a New York advertising executive who loses his job and then his mind. The play is as relevant today as it was 40 years ago when it first debuted on Broadway. Tony Award winner Jason Alexander stars. The El Portal Theater is located at 5269 Lincolnshire Boulevard in North Hollywood. For ticket information and specific dates and times, go to elportaltheater.com. If you're looking for an adventure, we've got just the thing for you. The Cabrillo Marine Aquarium is organizing a Channel Islands adventure to Santa Cruz Island on Saturday, April 30th. You would board a vessel in Ventura at 8 a.m. and enjoy a narrated voyage, observing sea life along the way. You'll cruise along the island coast, then go ashore, where you'll follow along a naturalist-led hike to observe the diverse habitats and panoramic views. The member price is $50 and $55 for non-members. For more information or to register, call the aquarium at 310-548-7562. For something different on the big screen, the Los Angeles Museum of Modern Art will be screening the film Beyond Time, William Turnbull, on Saturday, April 30th at 7:30 p.m. at the museum's Bing Theater. Turnbull is a celebrated British sculptor and painter whose artwork over the past 60 years has helped define modern and contemporary art. In conjunction with Brit Week and as part of an ongoing series of events celebrating the important artistic contributions of Turnbull, LACMA will premiere the documentary. A Q&A with filmmakers Alex Turnbull and Pete Stern will follow the screening. LACMA is located at 5905 Wilshire Boulevard. More info can be found at lacma.org. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. Spring has brought a baby boom to the Los Angeles Zoo. Anita Bennett introduces us to the zoo's 4 new arrivals, including a baby koala.
Look at the little baby sitting on Mama's back.
Where?
Right here up in the tree, see it?
So cute.
These excited students from Parthenia Elementary School in North Hills got a rare treat. They were visiting the Los Angeles Zoo as a newborn koala made her public debut.
The newborn's been with Mom since its birth because they stay in the pouch for about 6 months before we even see it. And so it's about a month ago that we started seeing the Joey come out of the pouch and start exploring and showing itself.
Native to Australia, koalas are kept in only a handful of American zoos.
They are exclusive to eating eucalyptus trees, so there's only a few facilities around the country that can actually provide the eucalyptus on a regular basis.
While the unnamed koala drew oohs and ahs, a set of peninsular pronghorn twins also competed for attention. These animals, which are nearly extinct, are usually found in Baja, Mexico.
Their names are Pancho and Nina, and they were born March 1st, so that makes them about 6 weeks old.
Adding to the zoo's baby boom, on March 20th, a desert bighorn sheep was born. The animals, which are native to the western U.S. and Mexico, like areas with rocky terrain. As you can see, they also like to lounge around. All of the newborns are now on display, so if you'd like to see them, you can come out and take a look. At the LA Zoo, I'm Anita Bennett for LA This Week.
The Los Angeles Zoo is open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. It costs $14 for adults and $9 for children. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow us on Facebook for a sneak peek of stories we're working on. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week. I'm Ellen Chang. Today is Wednesday, April 27, 2011, the first day of the hearings on the mayor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2011-2012. These hearings are being held by the Budget and Finance Committee, which is made up of 5 council members, to help the City Council and the mayor finalize a budget for the upcoming fiscal year. And for the next 2 weeks, I will be bringing you a daily briefing of the hearings to help keep you up to date. First, some background on the mayor's proposed budget, which he unveiled last week at the Central Library. With the city facing a $457 million shortfall, the mayor says there will be cuts and furloughs, but no layoffs. $100 million in cuts will come from the Los Angeles Police Department through negotiated contracts and furloughs for civilian employees. The mayor's proposed budget also calls for $54 million in cuts from the Los Angeles Fire Department. Citywide, the plan would close 4 ambulances and 18 fire companies. Just yesterday, Councilmember Janice Hahn joined members of the United Firefighters Association to call for the restoration of the Wilmington Fire Company and ambulance services that would be cut if the mayor's proposed budget is adopted. The current budget proposal would permanently close Light Force 38, a fire company in Wilmington made up of a hook and ladder truck and a pumper truck staffed by 6 firefighters. As a result, the daily staffing at that firehouse will be cut in half. There will also be cuts to the mayor's budget and council spending, but the mayor says his $6.9 billion budget plan will mean a more secure financial future for the city. Today's budget hearing in front of the Budget and Finance Committee, scheduled for this afternoon, will begin with a presentation of the proposed budget by the mayor's office. The committee will then hear an overview of the proposed budget by the city administrative officer. There will also be a presentation by neighborhood council budget advocates. The LEPD and LAFD are also scheduled to present their budgets to the committee. Administrative and support services for various city offices, including the city controller and city attorney's offices, will also be making their presentations. And that's our look at what's on tap at today's budget hearings. If you'd like to see the mayor's proposed budget for yourself, you can go to www.lacity.org and click on the link that says See the Mayor's Proposed Budget for Fiscal Year 2011-2012. I'm Ellen Chang. We'll see you back here tomorrow for another budget hearing update.
Hi, I'm Shannon Lamert Park. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Every year, nearly 4 million pets are killed in shelters due to overpopulation. These animals have done nothing wrong. They just don't have a home. The Pet Care Foundation does all it can to find loving homes, but it's hard. To help, please visit pets90210.org and donate or volunteer. Always spay or neuter your pets. And visit a city or county animal shelter near you and adopt a pet today. The love you find will be unconditional and endless.
Welcome to Pets 90210. I'm your host, Elaine Hendricks, and today is a very exciting day because we are in Beverly Hills at Woofstock, the annual event where we've got all kinds of booths back here that have products, that have trainers, that have animals for adoption, like that is happening right here. We've got Siaka, we've got West Side German Shepherd, we've got South LA, West LA, County, Bark Avenue, all kinds. If you have a pet, come on down. If you're looking for a pet, then be here next year. And what else can I tell you? You can always go to the website laanimalservices.com, and there's plenty of animals there who need a forever home. As always, we have our wonderful trainer with us, Raina Barker from Good Sense Dog Training. Hi, Raina.
Hi, Elaine. Good to see you.
You too.
Here we are. Beautiful day again.
Beautiful day.
Roxbury, yeah. Well, today I thought what we'd discuss is bringing a new pet into your home. which hopefully will happen today with all the adoptions that's going to happen here, right?
Yes.
I'm going to try and keep this brief and short. There's so much to cover concerning bringing a new dog in the home, actually. And typically when I go into a home, I think expectations tend to be a little high, a little too high when people first bring a new dog in or a new animal in. They want this immediate pet because they fell in love with it wherever they were and saw it at the shelter or at a foster or at a rescue. And they just want this dog to just settle in and be the pet that they have in their head it should be. But I think we have to understand that the dog is kind of overwhelmed in a new environment, coming from one situation into a new one. And even though some adapt pretty quickly, I'm amazed at how many will do that. Others do have a little bit of problems that we have to deal with, and that's what I get called for. There's some separation anxiety sometimes. There's a little bit of anxiousness or destructiveness or barking. And typically that happens because people leave the dog alone too much or overindulge too much, don't set up boundary structures, rules right away for the home, for the animal. And so there's a lot that really has to be thought through when you bring an animal in. It's not just, okay, here you go, you're in a new home and adapt, You are virtual strangers to each other. And essentially, you have to learn about each other. This dog doesn't know you other than you got me out of one environment, and now I'm in with this one, and you're my petting machine and feeding machine, right? They haven't developed a trust. They haven't learned your mannerisms, your vocalizations. There's, what training we don't know the dog has. And I'm amazed. I'll go into a home after a dog's been there a week, maybe two, and the person will say, the dog doesn't even listen to me. The dog won't come when he's called. He doesn't sit. Well, okay. This is training. This takes time. This takes a little bit of patience, and that's what we're for as professional trainers. We go in and help you do that. Get them into a class or have somebody come out and help you teach your dog these things. But beyond the obedience, there is a relationship that has to be developed with your animal. Okay, the trust. Trust and communication is very important. And give that dog time to process his new environment. I'm all for crate training. I think it's a wonderful tool to use. Of course, it can be abused, but, used properly, it helps with housebreaking and giving that dog a place to decompress and process his environment. Or a kitty-gated area where he has a bed and, a place to just be quiet and by himself. And also, let the dog understand your routine right away. Some people will take off 10 days or 2 weeks with their new dog or puppy to be home with it all the time. That's really not good for the dog. Separation anxiety can develop because what happens when you start back into your normal routine, the dog's going to go, where is everybody? You're leaving me. So have the dog learn that you go in and out, come and go, as matter of course throughout a day. You don't want to leave a new dog alone throughout the house for 8 hours. He doesn't know the house yet. He can be destructive or have problems. Let him see you come and go for short periods of time within his crated area or his kitty-gated room. And when you are home with the dog, he can follow you from room to room. Don't leave him in the living room when you're in the den. You're going to come back and find something destroyed, perhaps, So it's management, giving the dog some boundaries, and being with you and learning his environment over a period of time before you just assume the dog is going to be good. Does that all make sense?
Absolutely. I always tell people that when you bring a new animal into your life, and I have 5 of them now, I say actually give them a few months to get acclimated so that their nervous system calms down, because you don't know what history where they've come from, what's happened to them, and they need to know, just like humans do, that they are in a secure place and that they are going to be able to be taken care of.
You're right, Elaine, absolutely. Again, like I'm saying, you are strangers to each other. The dog is trying to figure out who you are, what you're doing. Am I going to stay here for a long? How long am I here? He doesn't know any of this yet, And then if you have other animals in the home, that's even a whole different dynamic.
The hierarchy.
That's a lot of stress for a new dog coming in. And the other thing I do want to say in bringing another dog into a home that has dogs already, that new dog does not get carte carte blanche privileges that your dogs that are in the home already have. Your new dog, just because you love him and you've rescued him and he's a sweetheart, doesn't mean he should get all the privileges that your other dogs have right away. He's low dog on the totem pole.
He's got to earn them.
He's got to earn those privileges, like sleeping in bed or being on the couch. That is a taboo thing to do right away with a new dog. Ultimately, yes, he can earn that right and privilege, you know. And the other dog's going to go, who's this interloper in our house, you know, taking our owner's attention and, you know, in our beds. So you have to let them know, yeah, I'm sorry, we're feeding these dogs first. We hook them up first. We pet them first. We give them treats first. Low dog on the totem pole. And that's where a lot of, you know, competition and issues can develop with a new dog in a home because they're competing now for your attentions and affections. So you have to be careful. Get some help. It works out usually fabulously well if you just follow those basic rules.
Basic rules. And if you have any issues at all, call up Raina, Good Sense Dog Training. She's the best. That's why she's with us. Hey, so we're talking about new animals and bringing them into their home, into your home, which is what we want you to do. Why don't we look at some of the dogs who are available now that you can bring into your home forever?
Absolutely.
It's time to meet some dogs, and we're going to start with this boy right here, who I just love. He reminds me of my T-Lock. Oh my gosh. This is Rocco. Rocco came in as an owner surrender. His ID is A1189542. Again, A1189542. He's neutered. He's a border collie mix. Looks like he's got maybe a little Dalmatian in him. And he is approximately a year, so he is still a puppy, and I felt that puppy playfulness with him earlier. He's housebroken, and he lived with a cat, but he played rough with a cat. So, Raina, quickly, what can... That's workable, right?
Absolutely. It's workable. You have to work it. You have to be ready to manage the animals, monitor their behavior together, train the dog to learn not to be so rough. And if you're not up to that task, then he shouldn't go into a home where there's cats, because it is going to take management and training. But the fact that he's been around cats, he just gets a little over-exuberant, probably because he's a puppy. You know, then he shouldn't go into a home with a cat. But dog and cats can learn to cohabitate very easily if you work on it.
And I'm going to guess they probably didn't have time for him because he's kind of on the larger side, but he's going to be smart. He's going to learn things fast. And again, his number is A1189542, and he just needs someone to work with him. And see, because look at that, right there. Look at that. Just picking things up just by following Raina. Okay, that is Rocco.
All right.
Thank you, Rocco. Okay, this is Deputy Butter. And Deputy, I gotta tell you something. In all my years, I've never seen a dog that looks like you. I have never seen a dog that looks like this. He is awesome. He is a lab retriever mix. I'm gonna guess probably too, maybe some Rottweiler, maybe a little Corgi.
Maybe some Corgi.
Yeah.
Well, we found out as he was herding the children, the younger children in the last home. You know, he had a job to do, so he didn't hurt anybody. But, you know, you have to be up to the task of training a dog around children. If you have young children, he is a sweetheart. So probably older children, he'd be great. He is sweet. He is wonderful. His name is Deputy Butters, mainly because he first came to the shelter with the name Deputy. Then he got adopted out, and they changed it to Butters. And because he was hurting the children, they thought, it's a little too much for them. But he is a sweetheart. And then we just kept his name, Deputy Butters, because doesn't he look like it?
He does, and that's herding, as in rounding up, not hurting, as in injuring them. He herds them. And his ID is A1179841. Again, A1179841. And he technically is still a puppy, too. He's only about 2 years old, and he knows some basic commands. He came in, again, as an owner surrender, and he will make a very good pet for someone who has time for him. So make time for Deputy Butters.
All right.
This is Lucy, and Lucy is a pit bull. That's just what she is, and pit bulls are amazing dogs. Don't let anybody fool you into thinking otherwise. And Lucy here is so sweet. She's spayed. She came in as an owner surrender. She is not even a year old. She's like 6 months old, so she's still very much a puppy. She is going to get bigger. But you get her now, and and she is going to make somebody an amazing pet. She's playful, she's cuddly, she's so sweet. She's one of Raina's favorites out here today.
She is one of my favorites. She's been in class at the shelter, and she learned her recall, she learned her dance, she learns her sit so quickly. I have to say with her, she does what is called a little bunny hop with her front, with her legs, because she has a little bit of neurological damage. It does not stop her in the least. She still runs, and she does like a bunny hop, and it's the cutest thing. Most dogs alternate with their legs when they run. They stride them. She hops, and she runs like the dickens, but it's a hop, and it's the cutest thing in the world. I love her.
Bunny hop just in time for Easter. So come get Lucy to bunny hop for Easter. Her ID number is A11-60176. Again, A11-60176. Okay, so Albert, I just want to say, Albert immediately came over and just plopped himself right in my lap. Albert, I love you. Oh my gosh. Okay, his ID is A11-85444. Again,
Sorry, I got the treats.
again, A11-85444. A neutered male terrier mix, came in as an owner surrender. He's approximately 3 years old, so he's just entering into adulthood. And so sweet. Again, like he just came right over and plopped himself right in my lap. And look how cute you are.
He's a cutie pie.
You're so cute, and I love your afro, Albert. I do. Hi. Sweet boy. So come get Albert. And from West LA, Albert is at West LA. And come on down and get him.
Checking it out. All right. Look at that face.
So pretty. Okay. So here's another guy, another just brave guy or smart guy. Hello, who just came right over and plopped himself right in my lap. So if you want a lap dog, this is Buster. Come get Buster. Huh? So cute. I now have just rescued my second Chihuahua this morning. Not Buster. We found another one on the street. Chihuahuas need homes. They get bred a lot here in Southern California, and they get dumped a lot. This one is an owner surrender, obviously tan and white. Hi, baby. Not even about 6 months old, so not even a year. Still a puppy, and so sweet. His ID is A11-91503. Again, A11-91503. Buster, you are adorable. He's not going to get any bigger. Unless you feed him, he might get a little wider, but Buster might like that, huh?
All right. Woohoo!
Yeah. Come here, I know. Look at this. I have like the best job in the world working with all these dogs. He again just like came right over, stuck his face in mine and was like, "Hi, who are you? I'm Jamal." And Jamal is gorgeous, a chocolate and red min pin. You're a chocolate and red min pin. You are, and you are just so gorgeous. He came in as a stray. What were you doing on the streets, huh? Who knows what happened to him? But now, guess what happens to him? He gets to go home with you. His ID is A11-87279. Again, A11-87279. And they're guessing that he's approximately 1 year old. So he's fully grown, he's very sweet, very calm, and has been getting along great with the other dogs out here. And again, just like came right over and said hi to Buster, and is a love bug. This is Jamal.
What I wanted to make a comment about with min pins, they are notorious escape artists. If he was a stray, chances are he sidled out the door really quickly. People need...
Members, I'd like to ask we adjourn in memory of a very special woman, Mary Ellen Cookie Day, born in New York, after World War II, Mr. Rosendahl served as a brakeman on the railroad, New York Central, and also served on Roosevelt's funeral train. Came west, raised her family, was very involved in the Larchmont Village community, a wonderful woman who was an inspiration, a spark plug for all that is good in a community, in a neighborhood. She passed recently at St. John of God's. She's survived by her 3 sons. I'd ask to put all your names on my resolution of commendation in memory of Mary Ellen Cookie Day, a great woman.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Adjourning motion, Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, Mr. President. Robert Wayne Muller was a respected radio executive and a founding member of St. Matthew's Church and a 70-year resident of the Pacific Palisades. Wayne was born in Royal, Nebraska on October 14, 1918. While attending Norfolk High School, he met his future bride, Mary Virginia Bodenball, on a blind date and remained together for 77 years. Financial difficulties during the Great Depression forced Wayne to leave college prematurely. He moved to St. Louis Obispo to work on a motel before reporting to the U.S. Marine Corps at Camp Pendleton. While on leave, Wayne married his high school sweetheart, Mary, on Easter morning in 1941 at St. Augustine's Church in Santa Monica. After his military service, Mary and Wayne moved to the Pacific Palisades, where they raised a beautiful family of 5 children. Wayne was a pioneer in Southern California radio. He was blessed with a resonant voice, and after taking broadcasting classes in Hollywood, he was able to find a job as an announcer on KOB in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and eventually KIEV AM radio in Glendale. As his family grew, Wayne transitioned to the advertising and sales side of the business. First at KBIG, followed by a long tenure with KPOL, now known as KZLA, in Hollywood. Wayne retired from radio in 1983 after working for Capital Cities Broadcasting as a prominent and well-respected radio advertising executive. Upon retirement, Wayne helped found St. Matthew's Church in the Pacific Palisades. It became a focal point for Wayne and Mary's lives. Wayne was the parish's first Eucharist minister and served in that role for over 50 years. In addition, Wayne served as a vestry member and was a founding member of the Chimes Ringers Guild, known as Ding-a-lings, playing the chimes for St. Matthew's services. Wayne is survived by his wife Mary and his 5 children, Stuart, Nancy, Robert, Jonathan, and Elizabeth, as well as 5 grandchildren and 1 great-granddaughter. A private memorial was held on April 6th. The family suggests any donations in Wayne's honor be sent to the Neighborhood Youth Association at 1016 Pleasant View Avenue, Venice, California, 90291. May he rest in peace.
Mr. Parks.
We have Officer Pitu Jose C. Diance, serial number 40316, who passed away Saturday, April the 23rd in Los Angeles due to a traffic collision. He was born February 1st, 1988 in Sun Valley, California. He was appointed to LAPD in September 2009. He was last assigned to Southwest area. He's survived by his parents, a host of brothers and sisters, and also his girlfriend, who is also a police officer, Mirna Rodriguez, who's assigned to Olympic Station. Viewing will be Friday, April 29th at 7:30 p.m. at Mary Immaculate Church, 10390 Remick Avenue in Pacoima. The services will be at the same facility at 8 o'clock on Saturday, April the 30th. And the interment will immediately follow at the San Fernando Mission Seminary.
Thank you, Mr. All members. Thank you, Mr. Labange. Thank you, Mr. Parks. All members on the police officer. I have one adjourning motion. German Alex Romero passed away April 20th. 17-year-old German Alex Romero was riding his bicycle on DeSoto Avenue near Valerio Street in Canoga Park last Wednesday evening when he was struck from behind by a hit-and-run driver at approximately 9 p.m. A friend who was riding with Alex at the time was unhurt. Police declared Romero dead at the scene. He was a resident of Canoga Park, talented soccer player at El Camino Real High School last season, played for the Real Southern California Soccer Club, was a senior at Chatsworth High School at the time of the accident. The suspect vehicle is believed to be a gray or silver Toyota Camry or Corolla. Police are asking anyone with information regarding the crime to call Valley Traffic Division at 818-644-8034 or 818-644-8032. Viewing is Thursday, April 28th, 4 to 10 p.m., Rosary at 7 p.m., and that is at J.T. Oswald, 1001 North Maclay Avenue in San Fernando. And the funeral mass is Friday, April 29th at 11 a.m., St. Catherine of Siena Catholic Church in Reseda on Sherman Way. He is survived by his parents and a sister. May he rest in peace. German Alex Romero. That concludes adjourning motions. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. This concludes this council meeting for today. Budget and Finance will begin at 1:30, and we will resume council next Friday. Have a lovely day, Los Angeles.